disappointed in every one of you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I kiss you on the mouth.
No, I'm not cool with that. Just, I'm sorry.
One more time.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I mean, I'm dealing with degenerate animals.
I'm disappointed in every one of you. Disappointed in every one of you.
All right, come on.
Honestly, I can't do it no more.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
Let me tell you why.
It's gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead, shoot.
You just killed a fucking man.
What are you going to do about it?
You're happy because you got nothing. You don't got a thing. You're happy because you got nothing. Lobito! Got nothing.
I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need
BDA boxing.
All right. Welcome everybody to another BD Boxing podcast, broadcasting to you live from the True North. It's a good friend, Mr. BDA, flying solo for the moment. Let's just get this intro out of the way, and then we can get into the fun, the meat of it, as they like to say. Shout out to everybody out there in the chat room. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe. We got a lot to get to here, so make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button. Really helps us out. Don't forget, you can check us out on Spreaker, iTunes, and Spotify. If you want to keep the gravy train rolling, you can certainly do so via the Super Chat feature. Or you can join the membership program. That's actually, you get a little bit more bang for your buck there because you get some special emojis, badges, the whole shebang. All right, fellas, that's what you get. Hey, can I also give a shout out to everybody who's part of the BDA membership program? You guys really help us out on this one, man. And I feel like, we put the names out there in the beginning, but I think it's imperative that we give a shout out to everybody. I'm talking about One Foot Out the Door, Steven Full Metal Jacket Schneider, It Was All a Dream, WK Devon, Rafael Garza, Lee Ruskin, Tony Boswell, Norman Louis, Jaguar, Rapax Trucking Company, still trucking out there in the free world, Andre Shooter, J Money, and King Bucho, the co-creator of this channel, who felt the need to join it in order to set an example. You gotta lead by example. That's what my grandfather always used to say. Unfortunately, he killed a couple of people in the war, but hey, that's for another show. Shout out to everybody out there in the chat. I'm talking about Toti Kidos, aka Soothsayer, Azeban, Shaky Boxing, Shadow Combat, TFM, Joe Lopez, The Quags, Eparukua, SSC, Sig Knutter, Rapax Trucking Company, the aforementioned one, Hard Recoil, The Quags, Don Ramon Champ, Eric Gomez, Christopher Roman, King Bucho in the house as well, Sing Faya, Iceman, Uncle Burnt Apostrophe, Shaky Boxing, Joseph Fuller. Guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Always appreciate your support. Man, crazy nights of boxing we had these past 2 days. Crazy nights. Or should I say a dawn and a night? Because that ESPN card, my goodness gracious. I felt like Henry Hill going back home at dawn and then getting screamed at by my mother-in-law. Where have you been? I was like, geez, Luis. Yeah, these ESPN cards, they got to start them a little earlier. Actually, it was early if you think about it, because by the time it was over, it was time to go back to work or to church if you're in my situation. But yeah, man, listen, the Chocolatito, he's the one to talk about. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the undercard between Lara and Sanchez. What a barn burner that was. It just goes to show you don't need 12 rounds to create a sensational fight. It can be 3 rounds, 4 rounds, 2 rounds. It's the action, the content that counts. Then you had Jose Ramirez beating beating, man, why am I forgetting? I just had a bit of a brain fart there forgetting the guy's name. Who did he beat? Not Cepeda. See, it's because it's a bunch of Jose Ramirez, right? Jose Ramirez versus, my goodness gracious. I should have pulled that up right now. I'm having a senior moment, citizen here, fellas. Can you believe it? It's been a while since I've had some. Somebody says Lars versus Sanchez. Oh, yeah, I mean, Pedraza. Yeah, why am I fucking Jose Pedraza, Jose Ramirez? It's the Jose that threw me off. What a great start to the show, let me tell you. Me already forgetting the names. But in any event, we are going to be opening up the phone lines within the... I'm going to try... Last time I said 30 minutes and it went to an hour. So we're not going to do that today. We're going to open them earlier because I know you guys have a lot to say. We might actually open them up earlier if nobody shows up to the panel because you never know. It is early here Sunday morning. It's a bit of a curveball for our regulars. Speaking of the regulars, let me call a couple of people here. And don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like. Really helps us out. Hold on a second. I'm getting Jimmy in here as well. Oh, by the way, I think I have to contact Jimmy somewhere else as well. Because on Twitter, I don't know if he gets the messages here. Who else am I forgetting here? All right. So let's see what people in the chat room say. MMA Champ says, what's up, kiddos? Uncle Brent Apostle says, Lara and Martinez are cut from the same cloth. Make a great wrestling tag team unit. Man, that fight, I was getting Barrera Morales 1 vibes because of just how quickly the action was changing. Or rather, who was getting the advantage. It was from 1 second to the other. All right, we got Jimmy jumping on board. Jimmy, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yo, what's up? Yes, I can, brother, loud and clear.
Fantastic. I can hear you well as well. Good to have you on board, man, on this beautiful Sunday. I mean, it was snowing earlier. Now the sun's coming out. Hopefully it's all good where you're at in New England. Jimmy, let's start out with the main event from last night. Of course, we're talking about Chocolatito Gonzalez beating up Julio Cesar Martinez, the younger Julio Cesar Martinez. And I think it's safe to say that Gonzalez looked a little slower than usual, but still as vicious as ever. What'd you make of the fight, Jimmy?
It kind of went the way I predicted, the way I thought it would go. You can't take on Chocolatito with 14 fights. You can. If I was his handlers, I mean, if I was him, I'd be pissed at his people. They should have never let him take that fight. You need 8 weeks or a full camp to take him on. All right. And when I saw that we did the video study, remember, you know what I mean? I didn't want to because we were pointing out as good, and I started out kind of negative on him, which isn't really fair, but I saw things that I knew Chocolatito would exploit. Listen, if that was a fist fight, if that was out in the street, I would have put my money on that kid Martinez if there was biting, pulling hair, and sticking fingers in the eye. But it was a boxing match. That kid thought he was going to go in there and bully Chocolatito. His young hubris, big sack, he was going to go in there and just fucking beat up Chocolatito. It's a boxing match. You're in there with one of the all-time greats in his division, schooled by Alexis El Guayo. Remember in between the 6th and 7th, I believe it was, when he said, I'm tired, my hands hurt? If you saw in the first round, every single time, kid would telegraph his body punches.
Yep.
And Chocolatito would do this slight veteran move. Instead of turning so much with the body punch, he would just elevate his elbow out a little. He'd just stick his arms out a little, and he kept catching the end of Chocolatito's hands at the end of his elbow. And like I tweeted, you can break your hand as easy punching the back of an elbow on the bottom of an elbow as someone's head. I mean, there's so many tactics to use in there. Just them. I mean, big props to the kid. Showed big stones this last 12. But now you look at it going forward. This kid had all kinds of confidence, right? Going into last night. He shouldn't have taken that fight because I'll tell you, that could have damaged him. Because one judge, I thought that's 116, 112. That dude filled that shit out before the fight. I gave that kid 2 fucking rounds if he's lucky, and I was being generous. I gave him 2 rounds. That was a schooling. He was taken to school by someone who knows his craft.
Absolutely.
And that's just how it goes.
And it's bad enough when, like you said, when a young fighter goes in there with a more experienced fighter, but now he's jumping in there with an all-time great. And it showed. Now, you mentioned the film study we did on Wednesday, and you said that you started out looking at the mistakes. But I mean, I don't blame you. Even when I was putting it together, I said, I'm pretty sure Jimmy, because you tend to do this, you're looking at it from the pragmatic standpoint, as if you were the trainer, of the guy and what you would correct, because those glaring errors were they were glaring. They were apparent, like the hands out. And in fact, Jimmy, I think it was the 8th or 9th round, they had the camera on Reynoso, who's Martinez's trainer. I think it was about the 8th, 9th round where they could have stopped the fight if they wanted to. And he was taking punishment, and you hear Reynoso and his assistant trainer going, hands up, hands up. And I'm thinking, man, if at this point you got to tell this guy to keep his hands up, he's not going to put him up. So is it safe to say that he was never going to beat Gonzalez?
Not with the skill set that I saw. You can be tough, and he is tough as nails, like most Mexicans. You know what I mean? He showed big heart. Got to respect the kid. A lot of guys would have quit because he wasn't in that fight. Mm-hmm. None of his shots were really lean and clean. And by the time Chocolatito was allowing him to lean clean, but meaning he was getting a little sloppier at the last half of the fight. When a fighter's in the corner when he says, I'm getting tired, you can almost guarantee 40% at least is off his power punches. You know what I mean? For him to admit that, he's not cracking with the same kind of, and by the end of the fight, he was throwing arm punches just to keep Gonzalo off him, but Gonzalez off him. If that was a prime Chocolatito, he would have stopped him in the 5th, 6th round. Without a doubt. It's just like you said, he's 34 years old. That was just sheer craft, ability, and skill. Just carried the day. You know, it's just he's a talented kid. He's never off balance. You know, it was such a difference between the two. Like when he would throw his power shots, right? He'd come up off his feet, being led into away from the, his body, just the inertia of the punch because his balance wasn't right. I mean, Sergio Mora, yes, he drives me bananas half the time, the shit he says, but he does know the fight game. He was a professional fighter. And when you got guys like him saying, I'm just in awe of what this guy does, it's because he's looking at him as a professional fighter saying, I can't do that. I don't know many guys who can. He just, you know what I mean? He's got the perfect balance. And if anyone wants to, when I was talking about punching the elbows at the end of the 10th round.
Yeah, what do you mean by that? Because I saw you tweet. I wanted to ask you about that when you were tweeting about keeping. Could you maybe explain? I don't know. And by the way, if you want me to show some videos from last week just to illustrate, but what did you mean by that?
All right. For instance, right at when they hit the 10-second mark at the end of the 10th round, what's his name? Martinez rears up with the body shot. Like he goes to throw a body shot, but he wicked telegraphed it. If you look at Chocolatito, instead of normally if you defend against a body shot, you bring your elbows into your body, you maybe twist with the punch a little. Gonzalez he didn't do that. Chocolatito just kind of rolled a little, but as he did, he brought his left elbow away from his body, pointing downward, like a kind of an angle, but just brings it away from his body. Because and then he just stepped back just a little, basically, and I don't know if he caught his elbow, but that's a move. If you telegraph a body punch and a guy can stick his elbow there where the punch is coming, instead, it hurts. It hurts to punch the bottom of an elbow. It's the hardest bone in the human body. Your forearm right there in the elbow. And more guys, like I said, have hurt their hands punching people's elbows, or as many guys as hitting heads. And he's just good at it. He just knows if he sees you telegraphing your body punches, he's going to make you pay. And the kid did say, my hands hurt. He was just, well, I mean, he said it because
he was also wailing away with power. So that doesn't help if he's going to hit bone.
But where were those shots? What was he hitting that would make his hands hurt? Definitely wasn't his head, right?
Right. Now, I also wanted to bring something up here, Jimmy. If you look at the punch stat numbers, Chocolatito apparently threw 1,076 punches and landed 374. 374 landed punches. That's usually what Tank Davis throws in his fights. Of course, different weight classes, but still. Martinez, for his part, he threw 713 shots, landed 182. I got to tell you, I didn't really see him landing that much, and again, let's talk about that. Chocolatito's defense, because I think it was recognized who said it on Wednesday. He says, if I'm Chocolatito, I'm taking the fight to Martinez and I'm sticking close to him. And then we looked at certain clips and I said, yeah, man, if he sticks to Martinez's chest, I don't know if Martinez can do that. And it was clear watching the actual fight last night that Chocolatito, if he was all the way out, he could deflect shots with his guard. And if he was all the way in, Martinez's shots were too wide to really do any damage, and they were too telegraphed too. So Gonzalez's defense, a lot of people love to talk about how it's harder. I actually got into an argument the first time I came here on YouTube when we started the channel. I actually got into not an argument, debate with somebody who was saying that Rigo's style is much more difficult And I said, actually, in my experience, fighting on the inside is more difficult because if you're fighting chest to chest, you can't see the whole body. It's not like fighting from the outside where you can see everything. Also, the reason why you see most amateurs starting out fighting from the outside is because it's easier. It's you're making the other guy open himself up. You're not putting yourself at risk. So to me, what Gonzalez does, especially at his age, like you mentioned, it's highly, highly impressive.
Skilled. I'll tell you, he had Alexis El Guayo right off the rip come in as a young kid. Talk about the stars aligning. You know what I mean? To have Alexis El Guayo, who breaks things down. I personally saw Alexis El Guayo working with a kid right off the street, teaching, like I've said this story many times, and just the way he talks to people and the love and the enthusiasm he had for the sport. It's infectious, and he passed that on to him. And it's just, and I personally think at this point, you'd have to say he's past Alexis, and nobody would be happier for him than Alexis El Guayo. It's the kind of guy he was, you know what I mean? And just, good for him, good for Nicaragua. But yeah, it's just the overall skill of the man. It's when you're in the inside like that, why it's so difficult, because like you said, you don't see stuff and you're going to get hit one way or another. It's all about rolling with the punches, looking at the dude's hips, feeling the inertia when he's coming and leaning on. Gym rats, guys have been in there for years, learn how to do that correctly. And just everything. He was schooled correctly. You know what I mean?
You know what's interesting?
And again, what's that?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was done. No, finish.
Well, you were saying about being schooled, and that's the difference between Gonzalez and Martinez. Gonzalez, he could have kept the fight on the outside with long-range shots, and he was still going to beat Martinez. Martinez is a guy that he needs time to do what he wants to, which is to feint, flurry, get back out the outside, reset. Chocolatito didn't let him do that.
Nope.
I mean, did we see Martinez feint like he did against Harris and against Arroyo? We didn't, right? I mean,
no, because he didn't have an opportunity to try to, because Chocolatito wasn't allowing him the opportunity to, throw feints, and because he was never that far away from him, because he wasn't dictating the pace from the offset. It was always Chocolatito. You know what I mean? He was pushing him back, and when you're pushing a younger dude back with the power, it's not going to be usually a good night for the younger kid. And that's all he had was power going into that. He was either going to stop him or he was going to get a lesson. And the problem is with lessons like that, it can be demoralizing.
Exactly. And you know what this fight reminded me of a little bit was Mayorga Trinidad. I mean, it was a long time ago, but Mayorga was going up in weight. He had power at welterweight, and you wanted to see if he still had power at middleweight. But as soon as Tito started picking off his shots, you knew Mayorga was in trouble, because if he wasn't going to be able to knock Trinidad, he was out of options. And it was sort of the same thing here with Martinez. I thought as soon as the first round started and Chocolatito was picking everything off, I said, well, he better hope he catches him with something in between, because otherwise Chocolatito is just going to pick this off all night.
Exactly. Yep.
Now,
and that's the one round I gave to Martinez because I just through sheer numbers. And then I think I gave him maybe the fifth, but after that, it was all Tito.
Well, I want to get into the scorecards, but I also want to get into a little something as well later on. So we got Gonzalo dropping by. Gonzalo, if you could, in a concise manner here, tell us your thoughts on the fight, because I want to get to the...
Gonzalo,
and maybe
how you doing, buddy?
If you could also tell us about the decision too, your thoughts, because I want to get into that as well. The actual scorecards.
The decision.
No. Well, first your thoughts on the fight, if you could, and then we'll transition to the.
Well, it was a good fight. It was somewhat entertaining. The right man won, obviously. He was just staying. He was just keeping his commitment to fight Estrada, but this guy took his place. A lot of people thought, oh, he's heir apparent. He's the one to take over because he's Rey Martinez. Canelo said he's supposed to win. I believe he's going to win. He's been knocking everybody out. No, but the right man won. He just replaced Estrada. Maybe everybody thought he was going to win, but, the right man won. He was able to take his punch, and what surprised Martinez, when Martinez landed, Chocolatito came back and was overwhelming him. And so Martinez was surprised, but, Chocolatito's more talented. He was a great fighter. It was a good fight. That's all I got to say about the fight.
No, but I wanted to ask you then, first of all, because I got a whole lot of questions, but I don't want to spend an hour on this. But I'm curious, what did you think of the scorecards, Gonzalo? Do you remember the scorecards? If not, I can tell you what happened.
17, 111, 118, 110, like that.
Yeah, man.
Like one.
Yeah, 118, 110. Okay, I can see that. Giving 2 rounds. 117, 111, 3 rounds. 116, 112. Gonzalo, what's that all about?
Yeah, well, we know it's hometown cookings. That's in San Diego, California. I was born there.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, in San Diego. And Canelo, he's got a gym there, and Rey Martinez was training at his gym. So that's right at the border from San Diego and Mexico. So yeah, they were chanting Mexico. Obviously, it was heading that way, but it wasn't even remotely close enough. But yeah, it was heading that way. If Rey Martinez would have won 3-4 more rounds, it would have painted a different picture. They possibly could have had it, where Martinez was winning, but it would have been too disgraceful.
Yeah, he ate too many flush shots. Like Jimmy said, I think Jimmy only gave 1 round or 2 rounds to Martinez at that. But 116, 112, that's egregious, man. That is, I don't know what that judge. I actually should have looked up the name before the fight, but I don't log on to BoxRec. Oh, by the way, I found an alternative to BoxRec because now they make you sign up. So screw that, man. I'm not giving another website my info. So there's this website called champignon.info, boxing and MMA, and you can look up people's. I think they just started out, so they don't have everyone's information, but they got the big names and some of the more ancillary names as well. So check that out. I'm gonna put the link in the description. But that's
cool.
why I couldn't look up the name there of the judges yet. But I'll be doing that. We gotta, Jimmy. Don't we have to hold these fucking judges accountable? I mean, 116, 112. When did Martinez win 4 rounds?
Yeah, so how many rounds would he have had to win to get that? 4?
4, yeah.
Oh, yeah, come on. Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, I thought I was being generous giving him 2. I mean, you point to the other 2 rounds where Chocolatito lost. I mean, after the first round, he outlanded him, outpunched him in every round, clearly. Yeah, I mean, you try to think, like, does he just not want to embarrass the kid at home? Like, I don't know, but you're not really doing a fighter any favors when you give him false, report cards too. Not going to get any better. But yeah, that was ridiculous, and they need to be held accountable. They're not. I mean, in football, you get rewarded when the crew that does the games the best, keeps the games moving, doesn't pull flags, because in that reality, you could throw a flag almost every play. But a good crew knows what flags to push, pull or throw. So at the end of the year, they get to do the Super Bowl. And so they get rewarded. There has to be something like that. Listen, boxing, the problem with boxing is this. Because there's no one governing body, it's archaic. When we first started judging boxing, there was no television. And even when we had it, like you watched it, it was like 2-dimensional, flat, gray. You could miss it. It was just gross. Now today, with every different camera angle above, from underneath, from the sides, I don't know why these guys aren't away from the ring in a booth somewhere where they can see it without the distraction of you could just run a feed without the announcers. So they just hear the crowd, the punches, because you want them to be able to hear the shots landing. So you could have a few mics around the ring so they can, they would hear it the same way, but they could, in between rounds, if they wanted to fast forward something, or rewind it back to make sure they saw something correctly, you could have, I just think they should do that. I mean, the sport was originated, they made the rules back, and so much technology and everything's changed. And every other sport's got into it. There's replay, I think, in every other sport, including baseball now. But boxing is just this archaic way of judging. And it's clearly not working, right? Because how many times do fans bitch about the scorecards?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So something's wrong.
And if you would have them at a higher point, not at the bottom too, where they're like probably peering down. Like when the shooter's pointing his weapon, he's got the advantage. If he's on the top, he can see more the enemy on the bottom. If you're on the bottom looking up, that's not a good angle. Martinez couldn't make it close, but the original opponent was supposed to be Estrada. Estrada would have made it close. Now, by the way the scorecards were painting, the picture was that if somebody would have made it close, like in this case, if it would have been Estrada, they would have gave it like the second fight to Estrada. as opposed to like what Martinez performed. He would have done a lot better because he's a better fighter. Man, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Chocolatito would have got robbed again.
I think Estrada, even with COVID, would have actually given Gonzalez a tougher fight, man. Because he's a much more skilled fighter. They're actually quite similar. He throws very. I mean, I thought Gonzalez won the second fight, but he was very close. He was very competitive. And let's not forget the controversy with Gonzalez Estrada too was that one of the judges had Estrada winning, I think, 10 rounds, and then one judge, Carlos Sucre, had Estrada winning the 12th round, and that was most people were unanimous. Well, it was. You watched that 12th round. Don't tell me Estrada won that one because he didn't. So, yeah, it was disgusting, man. But now I
Who the fuck's that, baby? Is that the dude from Prison Break?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I know for sure he's not that inbred white trash rapist. But I wanted to ask you, fellas, before we move on here to something else, because we got to get through this as well. Who do you guys want to see Gonzalez fight next? Because, man, the world's his oyster right now.
I don't really know. I would imagine I know he called out Inoue at the end of the fight. It's like, okay, hold your horses, bud. Let's not get silly. Mm-hmm. I don't think you should take on Inoue. I think it's just too big of a cat for him to mess with. Anybody at 115, I think he could still go. I mean, I was calling for him to retire after Rungvisai because I honestly thought he was going to be shot. But to come back like that, you know what? That's what all-time greats do. But it's just crazy to see him at 34, Donaire at 39, like Gonzalo knows, these young guys, the small dudes, their motors burn out so much quicker than the older guys.
Oh, yeah. Like that new guy. What's that weight? Carlos, what's Martinez and Puma, that Argentinian cat that just beat Jerwin Ancajas. What division is that?
I think it's this division.
Okay, he's a good fighter too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Could you imagine Martinez versus Chocolatito? Oh, man, that would be a war. That would be. But guys, maybe I'm the only one. I'd rather see Chocolatito in there against Rungvisai a third time than Estrada, because Estrada, I've been there, done that. The fight's always going to be close, but in the amount of punches they throw. But Rungvisai is one of the rare fighters that's actually stronger than Gonzalez. A lot of these guys at Superfly, they do seem to be stronger than Gonzalez, but they can't push him back. This guy could push him back. He already knocked him out. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm the only one who would want to see this one. But yeah, man, that's a good catch, Gonzalo. Yeah, Martinez too. I mean, there's a whole bunch. There's Yoka too. At Superfly, that fight could happen as well.
The thing is, Rungvisai, is he a Filipino? Philippine?
No, Thai.
Fighter? Thai, okay, well, Southeast Asian, all right. I would be huge on the drug testing, regardless.
Wait a minute,
I'm just saying,
No.
With the Southeast Asians, I don't know. I just, I think the Filipinos, especially, like what happened when with Donaire, with Knucklehead Sean, isn't that his Twitter? They danced all around they didn't want to do anything more than the WBC, which is just if they test you or not. So, yes. I guess I have no proof. I'm just saying I would want to see stringent testing.
Yeah, you better be careful there, man. I mean, I can already see Rayful Shapiro calling me after the fight. Tell Jamie not to always say allegedly. You got to say allegedly. Allegedly.
Yeah, okay, allegedly. But yeah, I know. I just want to make sure that everything was on the up and up.
Absolutely. No, you're right. I'm right there with you, Jimmy. You're absolutely. I mean, obviously we don't have any proof, but I mean, I think we can use our common sense here and then say that most of these guys are on something, especially if they're over there in Southeast Asia. Who knows what they're getting from those pharmacies?
Well, it's not illegal, and I doubt they have a big underground, counterfeit problem like they do here in the States. Mm-hmm. Some of the best juice and stuff does come from that area.
Well, I tell you what, man, when it comes to content, that's another thing that you look for when it comes to the quality. And I got to tell you, I'm a little disturbed here that some of these big channels over on YouTube didn't cover this fight beforehand or afterwards. Guys, I'm sharing the screen with you, so if you want to see what I'm saying here, it's not completely necessary, but...
Because they're not real boxing fans, bro. Anybody, when I hear someone, I don't mess with the little guys. So you're just like, you're a Johnny-come-lately, or just like you want to jump on because the big classes everybody talks about. I hate that. It's just so disrespectful to the little fighters, the little guys. Well,
Jimmy, let me show you, man. Let me show you examples. Champ side, who's renowned for his bizarre pound-for-pound list, didn't cover the fight beforehand or afterwards. He did do videos on Canelo. He's shitting on Canelo. 3 videos shitting on Canelo in a row. Now he's saying that he docked Benavides. He did what Coach Malachi over at New Media Today is always making fun of when sources say. Well, this guy put it in there unironically. So that's one guy. Big channel, very big channel, boxing fan, and he didn't cover the fight beforehand or afterward. Let's go to Trill Boxing Talk, another big channel, LDBC. They usually do fights, post-fight shows right after a fight, especially when it involves Errol Spence, Tank Davis, and so on. This time, look at that. Beforehand, a video about Errol Spence, who hasn't fought in a year. 2 videos on Errol Spence. One on Cain Velasquez, who's not even a boxer. Oh, and then another video on Errol Spence. Let's go to everyone's favorite 78 Sports TV. Should have added the TV. How irresponsible of me. What did he do? He did a video. He did a video on Skip Bayless. One about game dogs, which is just, probably talking about fighting dogs. Canelo versus Bivol, should it be sanctioned? Devin Haney, Dylan White, Josh Taylor. A video on Snoop Dogg 11 days ago. No mention of the great Chocolatito fighting. Let's go to, real quick, I'm trying to go through this quickly. Sorry about this, fellas.
Take your time, brother.
Barbershop. He did a video about Snoop Dogg. Riza Islam, brother Ployd and Young Pharaoh. Canelo, Wesley Mohammed. Okay, so no coverage of the Chocolatito card at all as well. And finally, let's go to Fannin, whom I hear is no longer part of the LDBC because he was too crazy even for them. Cambosos versus Haney. Gervonta Davis versus Garcia and Haney. Errol Spence, Croft. So the same old shit that everyone always talks about. Canelo, Errol Spence. So, guys, when people say, you're just clout chasing these channels because they're bigger than you. Yeah, ask yourself why they're bigger. Are they bigger because they're covering boxing? Or are they bigger because they're covering something else? Big question right there. Big question. But yeah, fellas, what do you think? I mean, why what do you got to say about this? Why aren't these boxing channels covering one of the pound-for-pound fighters and one of the best fighters of our generation?
Because there's no ideological angle to push there.
No.
Let's just be honest. There's a Mexican against a Nicaraguan. There was nothing there for them. And that's just the long and short of it. I mean, it is what it is. They're not most of those guys, I believe they use boxing because it was an easy platform. I mean, if you go to like Akai TV, come on, man. Dude's got 200,000 subscribers, and I don't think that fucking dude could break down a boxing match. You couldn't tell you anything about setting traps or anything. They get in there, they say inflammatory things, clickbait titles. It's it's a joke.
I mean, look, I'm not one of those guys that besmirches people for. I mean, we've admitted as much here that we don't watch all the fights. But what I'm saying is we don't besmirch people if they don't watch all the fights. Like, for example, me, I don't have time anymore to be watching some Transylvanian dude fighting a Bulgarian for a spot at the top 10 WBC. I mean, I can't. I don't. Maybe I'll watch it later on YouTube, but I don't watch him live. But this is an important fight, right? I mean, this was a powerful. Yeah.
It's an ATG, an all-time great of this generation. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's just, how could you have a boxing channel and not cover Roman Gonzalez fight? And against the fight, a lot of people, of course, a lot of Gonzalo people who don't like Chocolatito were hoping this kid was going to spark him out. I mean, there was a big crowd there last night. They were pro-Mexican, obviously, San Diego, but they respected Gonzalo. They gave Gonzalez, they gave him all the props and the love, and they were cheering him and stuff. But I just want to mention that one thing, too. You want to know why the LDC didn't cover that? Last night, they announced who was the first. Mickey Garcia got a moderate applause, some decent whistles. They said Ben Rodriguez, the crowd got real loud. And then they put the, camera onto Devin Haney, and the boos started coming down. Boo, like there was no love there. And it's not, and of course the LDBC was, it's just because it's mostly Mexicans, and they're like, no, the Mexicans, they don't give a shit. If Haney went out and won that belt legitimately, and actually in some of the stuff he says, and like instead of running his mouth, was out there running his fists on legitimate opponents. I mean, has he signed the contract yet? Have we heard anything new on the Gamboza thing? No, because they're still trying to make that fight happen in the United States.
Oh,
you know, so if he had the stones that Lomachenko had, the fight would be made, to be signed and ready, would have a date already. But so, and for that reason, you're not going to get the respect of true boxing fans when you handle your career the way you do, the way I believe Haney's doing. I think might be his father pushing a lot of that, but he has a lot to say about a lot of fighters. And for instance, and then you get the people like, and end up taking it on Haney because his fan base, because like, remember that kid who was on the show last week or Friday, trying to say like, well, they should rate him higher than Lomachenko, and explain why, other than he just, that fighter looks like him, so of course he should be rated higher. I mean, let's be honest. Well, he looks like me, man. I mean, he should have just been honest and said that. But instead, we get the lip service, the questions, the conflations, the whataboutisms, and it just gets tiresome. And I sometimes think these fighters pay the price for their fan base.
Yeah,
this is what. That's why.
Go ahead, Gonzalo. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is what I like Canelo's attitude this time around, because it sets an example. As he was mentioning when he got on the ring, you know, that he don't care. He's willing to fight anybody because he's in his prime. You know, that attitude reflected confidence. And that's an example for the fighters to see. And I kind of did like that, you know, this time around, now that he's fighting Bivol. He's stepping up, fighting the best, hopefully with no weight clauses, but because it sets an example for everybody to see. If you want to make the money, take the tough fights.
Well, you know what, Gonzalo, that you bring up an excellent point about take, because that's what he said. He said, I think these guys should stop chasing me sometimes and maybe fight each other in the meantime, because they're going to fight. But it brings up the point about these big boxing channels. Again, I showed a list here of 5 of the major big boxing channels, and they didn't even cover the Chocolatito fight, neither before or afterwards. And you got to wonder, these are the same type of people, or you got to realize rather, that these are the same type of people that whenever a fight doesn't happen immediately when they want to, at their beck and call, this guy's ducking. Or if fighter A calls out fighter B via Twitter and the fight doesn't happen, oh, he be ducking. He ducking. It's like, man, this ain't prison. If you call somebody out, the other guy doesn't have to immediately respond and hit you in the face. Otherwise, he loses standing in that prison. This is the boxing world. You got to send contracts. You got to negotiate. And guess what? Eventually, the fights end up happening. But these are the same people that didn't cover the Chocolatito fight before or afterwards, are the same types of people that are telling you they know what's what. This guy's afraid of that guy. And that's all they do. These guys are afraid of... I just showed you the videos that they do. Errol Spence, Terence Crawford beat ducking. Canelo beat ducking. Cambosos beat ducking Haney. I mean, doesn't it get tiresome?
Clickbait. It's clickbait, brother.
Well, we're opening up the phone lines. We've opened up the phone line so people can call in, Jimmy. But Jimmy, I don't know how you do it, man. Being on Twitter and listening to some of this stuff of this guy's ducking, that guy's ducking. I mean, you've explained it before, how just because you call somebody out on Twitter doesn't mean it's an official call out and, oh, that guy ducked because he didn't respond to the call out.
Exactly. You got to make it fair.
You cut off there, Jimmy, a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. You got to make, a call out, an actual call is an offer. You sent an offer. We're willing to fight you for X dollars. You know what I mean? Here's our offer. Make a counter if you want to make this, or if you don't want to, fight, we don't fight. But to get on Twitter and, there's the verbal call out at the end of a fight to say the name. But then there's call outs. Those call outs are just attaching your name. And a lot of times, Davis has become notorious for it. Every single time there's, Lomachenko's name's in the news, somebody from his team will say something stupid just so get Twitter talking about him. And I guess no press, any press is good press, but then you get what you get with Haney last night. The crowd booed for a reason. And it's not because he's black. It has nothing to do with it. It's because how he's handled himself and the things he says, and he doesn't have the resume to back it up. Nobody likes that fake hubris, that fake or I'm the baddest man in the world. Yeah. By what metric are you gauging that by? A washed Gamboa that you go all 12 with? Going all 12 with Linares, who everybody else now knocks out when they go in the ring with them. So you're proving you don't have the power. You're just not a power puncher. But that's all right. You can have the great skills to compensate it. But he also got really rocked by Linares. So you say to yourself, okay, you got that rocked by Linares, and you don't have that much power. So those are question marks. And when there's question marks about you and you're the boogeyman of the division, and all these guys who seem to be willing to fight each other like Lomachenko is ducking you, you know what I'm saying? That becomes frustrating. It's like, how is the guy who's fighting everybody, has at least made offers and said he'll fight anybody anywhere and has the receipts to prove that that's the case, is the one ducking the guy who hasn't fought anybody? He's not going into a fight where he isn't the odds-on favorite. Not even close. So after a while, it becomes fake hubris, and it's just bullshit. And then that's what you get, what you had last night.
And by the way, you got Tank Davis is going to fight Rolly Romero. They're still set on doing that. So, I mean, it just goes to show you. Yeah, we're going to keep the fights in-house, Mayweather said. And, this is what you get. Romero.
Yep. Attach your name to Lomachenko and then fight Rolly Romero. You know what I mean? And then lie about how many pay-per-views it sells and having a sellout. Because they gamble, they bet on the fact that his fan base is either too stupid to look up the fucking truth or don't want to hear the truth. And they'll just regurgitate whatever garbage comes out of that propaganda feed, or better known as Ellaby's Twitter feed. Just propaganda. That's all it is, dude. The shit that comes out of his mouth, the way he dances around, uses word salad because he can't come out and say, well, he's not actually a part of boxing. He's not really a part of the boxing landscape. He's on the preview, on the purview, off on the side. It's just, he's disingenuous in the things he says. And the fact is, and now he's even breaking it down like, I'm not going to do things what Twitter boxing wants, or I won't, the boxing heads are the real, hardcore boxing fan is a tiny little niche. We're thinking outside the box. So we're thinking outside of real boxing fans is what he's saying. And that's when you sell 42,000 pay-per-views.
Add that, if that. Let's go to the phone calls here. Somebody's calling in, and we'll see what they have to say. You can talk about anything, fellas, about the regarding last night. 678, you're on the air. 678, what's on your mind?
Hey, shout out BDA, shout out panels, shout out Discord. I just want to bring up. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead. You're on the air. Man. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, man, listen. This is the first time where I looked at Mexican style, man, and it just felt uncomfortable. All the times that Martinez was getting hit, it didn't light this fire inside of me like it usually does during other Mexican fights.
But you know what, man? Mexican style usually involves a modicum of defense. Martinez doesn't have Mexican style. He's like Fernando Montiel or Hugo Casares. It's a weird style, hands down, a lot of shifting. But you were clearly uncomfortable by the amount of punches he took, right? Do you think he's ever going to be the same, or?
It was like ground beef.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm surprised he wasn't more busted up. Well, maybe he is now. After maybe he's more swollen out.
Some guys just don't swell. Some guys genetically just don't swell as often, as much. So their face might not look as beat up. Like Mickey Ward wasn't that big of a sweller. He had thick skin. It was hard to cut him, but you could still have the internal damage. But I don't think he took that much damage. But
even if it was Mexican style, because obviously he's a Mexican dude that swings away. His Chocolatito's record against Mexicans is like 20-1. So he's only lost to Estrada. Beat Estrada once and beat beat 20 other Mexicans. So man, Chocolatito, he's great, man.
Let the caller.
In that one run, I don't think he won. All right, caller, sorry, buddy.
Hey, no, you're good. One last thing. So this is my thing about the LDBC versus us over here. We can respect Chocolatito after he did this right to a Mexican boxer and all this shit. The LDBC would never do that on their end.
Well, that's why they didn't cover the fight. Because A, they're not interested, and B,
They
they're
didn't even
not
fucking cover the fight.
exactly. They're not interested in this stuff. But they're not. It's like they're a big boxing channel. I mean, they're not covering this fight. Like I said, I'm not saying you have to cover a fight between a Transylvanian guy and a Bulgarian guy who aren't even in the top 10 in either in any of the sanctioning bodies or by any of the sanctioning bodies. But this is a big fight. I know they're little guys, and I know little guys usually don't get as many numbers as the bigger dudes. But come on, man. In terms of quality, this was a quality fight. Why didn't they cover it?
I don't think they covered Bam Rodriguez either. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Go,
Martinez reminds you, taking this damage early on in his career like this, it reminds you of like James Munguia.
So do you think he can improve like Munguia did or appears to be doing?
Not if he takes fights like Chocolatito. Not if he fights like that.
And let's not forget, he's already 27 as well. So he's not exactly a young pup. But anyway, listen, by the way, is this Soothsayer or?
This is him. What's up, y'all?
Hey, what's up, man? Yeah, we gotta do a second renaissance on I saw you posted the Georgia Stones thing there. That was creepy as fuck, man.
Hell yeah.
All right, well, listen, Soothsayer, anything else you want to say before we move on? Oh, I think we lost him. All right, shout out to Soothsayer. Thank you for your call, man. Really appreciate it. Don't forget, fellas, the phone number's right there in the middle left-hand portion of your screen. If you want to call in, make sure to do so, and make sure to hit the like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Going back to you guys know I don't like talking about the LDBC, but I mean, are these people in a position to talk about boxing and who knows more about boxing where they didn't, and like somebody else said in the chat, they didn't even cover the Cepeda the Ramirez versus the Ramirez fight on ESPN. That was another important fight that was going to move a lot of chess pieces in the 140-pound division. They didn't talk about that one as far as I can tell. So again, I don't understand when this just keep in mind, these are the people that are telling you they know what's what in boxing. They're the ones that are calling it like it is.
And none of them, I believe, I checked too. I don't think any of them covered Bam Rodriguez against Crudas or either. Like, they just don't mess with that. If there's not an angle, and unfortunately with a lot of the LDBC, if it's not a racial angle they can play, they're not going to mess with it because that's not where they're based. And that's not what, again, it's, I've seen, one of the guys, Blue Blood, right? Isn't he like one of the top considered LDBC guys, good friends with Wilder and stuff? Blatant lies, like easily proven bullshit. And then he'll even say it. He's done a video where he's just come out and said something that's just outrageous and admitted into it. Imagine if that really happened. Like, he starts out, you know what I mean? So the clickbait gets you in the door, you hit play, so he gets his, he's get his view under, but then he comes out in the first minute saying, well, that's not what really happened, but just imagine if it did. Like, are you serious? Yeah, no, it was about Oscar De La Hoya. It was outrageous.
My goodness gracious, that's yeah. We've had that happen here on Open Lines Friday, where people go, well, imagine if this guy did that guy. Okay, well, that hasn't happened yet. Let's stick to what, like when a guy they like does something, and people go, oh, well, if this guy did this, then they wouldn't, nobody would be criticizing him. Well, you don't know that because he never did that. Your guy did. So let's talk about that. So yeah, it's little tactics like that really make you go, huh? It makes you raise your eyebrows. And you know what? Big drama attracts viewers. But talking about a Bulgarian lorry driver, as Stu likes to say, fighting some other dude, that, you got to compromise. You can't talk too much hardcore boxing because then you lose people. But you can't have, just talk about Canelo all the time. You can't talk about Tyson Fury all the time and just, start for the casuals. You gotta mix it up. But that's the thing. You got to mix it up. You can't just stick to one. Can't stress that enough. Speaking of mixing it up, what I think we're going to do this Friday is something we haven't done in a long time, which is a pound-for-pound show. It's been a long time since we've done a pound-for-pound list show. And I think it's imperative that we do one now because a lot of things have changed since we last did one. Usyk going up to heavyweight. We've got the Chocolatito thing. What do you guys think? Let me show you at least the ESPN rankings. Let's not go to the Ring Magazine ones because we do them all the time. ESPN, I was surprised to see. They got Gervonta Davis, number 10, pound for pound. They got Josh Taylor, number 9, previously ranked at number 7. I guess they dropped him after the Catterall fight. Estrada, number 8. Loma, number 7. Spence, number 6. Fury, number 5. Usyk, number 4. Inoue, number 3. Crawford, number 2. Alvarez, number 1. What say ye, fellas? Let's give us a little preview of what we can expect next Friday. Do you guys think Gonzalez should be there?
Well, Gonzalo, yeah, of course. Gonzalez should be in the top 10. I mean, if you have Tank Davis in the top 10, they do. I mean, if I see any top 10, I personally don't do these because they're so, they're up to your opinion. There's no, but you know what I'm saying. But but you would have to be, just show me the mental gymnastics that you have to perform to put Tank Davis in the top 10 pound for pound in boxing right now, by who he fights, how his fights have gone. Outside of this, the great freaking 2-second tweet knockouts of like Santa Cruz, the rest of the fight, I mean, I don't know. Did you see? I mean, was that anything spectacular? It's just, I don't know. It's crazy. But so, yeah, I would not have I would not have him. So I would have Roman Gonzalez on there. I'd have probably Roman Gonzalez right now in the top 6.
Yeah,
all boxing right now.
And why not, man? And here's who else received votes. Kambosos received votes, but he didn't make it in. But Turviev didn't make it in. Golovkin didn't make it in. Lopez didn't make it in. Stephen Fulton didn't make it in. I think he went on a good run, 2021. Actually, we gave him a honor roll when we were doing the boxing report cards a couple of weeks ago. Shakur Stevens. Some people got Shakur Stevens in the top 10, by the way. He has, I mean, a win over Jamel Herring. Come on. Oh, Jermell Charles is another guy that didn't make it into the list. He's got, a good argument for that. And Donito Donaire.
Jamal has more of a claim to top 10 than frickin' Davis.
Absolutely.
Again, a lot of that is popularity, and there's politics involved. And if you're working at ESPN, especially where identity politics rules the roost, you think they could make a list out there without making sure there's some Black American fighters?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the reason why they're on there. The reason why Tank's on there, for no other reason. He hasn't done anything to deserve it, but they're woke.
Well, listen, Bucho says he's going to do a pound-for-pound show later on this week. So, I don't know. Hey, Gonzalo, you didn't... what do you think about Gonzalez in the pound-for-pound list? You got anything, a little preview for us?
Yeah, man. Gonzalez, Donaire. I'm always impressed when you think about the pound-for-pound fighters. There's usually like in their mid-30s, man. A lot of them, not all the lists. I remember when Mayweather, Pacquiao, Bernard Hopkins, to name a few, were in the top 10 when I used to read the Ring magazine a few years back. Yeah, that'd be a good choice, Gonzalez, because he's only lost to Estrada and Rungvisai. But the first fight, I thought he beat Rungvisai, and this last one, I thought he edged it out against Estrada. So the dude's hardly lost like ever. He's in the realm of Manny Pacquiao in terms of greatness. You could even say he's better than Pacquiao, like official scorecard was saying. I remember that from last week. I was thinking to myself, you know what? This guy might be right, man. This dude's he's on another level. But he's a flyweight, so a lot of the times that gets overlooked. Kind of like when Ricardo Lopez was on the top of his game. Even now, he's not regarded as one of the top 3 greatest Mexicans of all time. Maybe because of his size, I think, but that's just the reality.
Yeah, man.
Gonzalez definitely.
I think Gonzalez is more tight when it comes to technique than Pacquiao, because even Pacquiao post 2006, when he really started working on really ironing out his flaws, he was still, when he would throw the left hand, sometimes his rear foot would go up in the air, and his defense, and he wasn't always the best at cutting off the ring, consistently putting pressure. But definitely, Pacquiao, you can't deny, he's got a better resume than Gonzalez.
For me, PDA, pound for pound means a lot of things. Like, if you drop something from the Empire State Building, whether it's a rock or like a feather, I don't know, something that weighs equally, well, maybe not a feather because you get some resistance, But something that weighs the same, even though it's a different object, if it means the same. So if pound for pound, let's say you get hit a lot, but you have a great chin, that means you're born with something in the world that nobody really has. So that for me is like just because you don't have the skills, but like sometimes just because you're born with something also means a lot to me. Like if you punch hard because you're born with that, and not everybody is born with that, or like a tough chin. So that's a quality that that Gonzalez might be better in some things, but some fighters might not be as good as him. But because some fighters can take shortcuts, they deserve also. Not always just because they got the skills, because you're born with something.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's like that's when we get into the distinction between skills and physical talent.
The whole pound for pound conversation started because forever, time immemorial was always the heavyweight, and that's because it was it's the big draw. So they wanted something to be able to for the smaller guys. Like pound for pound is the whole reason, because obviously if you say if these two people fought, who wins? Obviously the heavy you put a heavyweight in there against a middleweight. I mean, it's just a size disadvantage. So for that reason, that's if I'm remembering correctly, the whole reason behind the pound for pound was to shine light on the smaller guys who are super talented.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a nice distinction there as well about the start of the pound for pound list. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like. It really helps us out. Let's go to a phone call here. Let's go to... Hold on a second. It's loading up. 612. You're on the air. 612. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, guys? Happy
Hello.
Sunday.
How you doing, Tin Man? What's up, man?
What's up? Doing great. Yesterday's card was awesome. I think Gonzalez is a once in a 20-30-year-old talent. He made me a believer. I never thought anyone could dismantle Martinez like that. He was in his chest all night, and he just kept rolling the shots, and it's all subtleties. I hope the young boxers learn that stupid shoulder roll is not the only way to fight, and there are multiple ways to fight. The second thing is I didn't see another thing. I just want to make a few points about the other fights. I didn't see any great improvements in Jose Ramirez. I don't know if he'll win on a title at 147 or even at 140. And the last point I want to make is Tyson Fury is a piece of shit, and I hope Dillian White robs his head off. Thanks.
All right, Tin Man. Always appreciate your calls. Always keeping it concise and explosive, man.
Tin Man brings it.
Yeah, have yourself a good Sunday, man. Don't be a stranger.
Take care, man.
Take it easy, man.
Take care, buddy.
Tyson Fury's a piece of shit. Well, we're going to talk about Tyson Fury eventually when we have the time, because we got a lot to get to. And fellas, he just reminded me of Ramirez versus Pedraza. For some reason, I keep forgetting Pedraza's name today, but did you guys watch the fight? What did you make of it?
It was a battle of Jose's. It was a
battle of Jose's.
It was a one-on-one competition.
That's a good one. A one-on-one competition. Well, what did you guys think of it?
I think Jose Pedraza has cemented himself as a gatekeeper. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, and Ramirez doesn't look the same, man. He just doesn't.
Not as ferocious. Doesn't seem to. You know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah, he just doesn't seem to be the same.
He got shook, and he looks like he's lost confidence. I remember that one time I got in a fight with some dude that was pretty clean cut in a bar, and I punched him, and after that, the dude went homeless. And the people over there in the neighborhood used to be talking, "Oh man, that guy's never been the same." And I remember that. Fucking dude went homeless. He was never the same. Lost confidence. This is a true story. This is
you feel a little guilty after that, brother?
you could see that he's lost confidence, and the guy, he was good. He's still good. But I don't know if it was just because he was undefeated, and once he lost a little bit of the luster, the desire or something. But something's not there. He just looks a little empty.
Shine's off.
Gonzalez got bankrupt fist. He hit somebody and they make him go bankrupt. Did you hit Donald Trump with your fist anytime, man? Because he went bankrupt a couple of times too, right? Supposedly. Fucking Gonzalo, man. He's got those You got to switch it up, man. You should have lottery ticket fist. That way, every time you hit somebody, boom, you make him a millionaire. I'd take a couple of punches from you if that was the case. But yeah, I think, Jimmy, do you agree with Gonzalez's assessment? Do you think Ramirez lost something from the Taylor fight?
Well, confidence. I don't know. Listen, I always thought Ramirez was more hot than talent. Like he was nothing. He didn't do any one thing great. He was just came in shape, came to fight, took his job serious. And again, I don't put it all on the referee with Ramirez when he fought, when he lost to Taylor, but I still blame, I think the ref did a horrible job. You know, he tapped him and he fell for a mistake. He made a mistake thinking he was going to be, because he kept breaking him up, putting hands, he'd failed them because he tugged on Ramirez's arm. He said, "Stop."
Yeah.
And he tugged on his arm, and you could see Ramirez loosened up. Like, okay, he was expecting to put the hands in, and when he didn't, Taylor hit him. Remember, you saw the referee, the big butt there, jumps back with his hands in the air, like, "Oh, what did you do?" Like he knew he fucked up. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna do one thing, do it all night. Be consistent, because you lull the fighter into thinking that way. And Taylor did what he's supposed to do because, hey, protect yourself at all times. But it was still a stupid move on the referee. I'm not, when I first said that, people were like, "Oh, it wasn't because of the referee." I'm like, I'm not saying that was the deciding factor, but it didn't help the situation. Believe me, I don't think Ramirez would have caught that shot if he wouldn't have grabbed Ramirez's arm right before the shot came.
I remember we complained about it because he didn't fully grab the arm, but he did step into Ramirez's line of sight, and he was about to touch him. So Ramirez reacted as if he'd been touched. And like you said, he fucked up Ramirez too. But the referee was. I didn't. Kenny Bayless admit as well that he fucked up a little bit.
Well, yeah, he said something along those lines. I don't know exactly what, but he knew just by his body language. You knew he messed up, because if you're gonna put your hands on the fighters, like some guys will slap the fighters' backs to let them know, don't throw any more punches because I don't want to get hit because I'm about to push you two apart. So they'll go up and smack their backs and then put their hands between them. But if you're going to smack the backs, you got to put your hands between them. You can't just smack the backs and back off, because these guys are expecting a certain thing. If you do one thing, in any refereeing, whether it's football, baseball, hockey, especially, you want consistency. The ref can be bad, make bad calls, but if they're always the bad calls, then you know what to do to avoid it. It's when they're not being consistent, when they do things different. And in boxing, you can get somebody hurt that way.
He's a converted right-hander, so Ramirez is actually a left-hander, and he's got a lot of power in that lead left hand, but he's very front foot heavy. And I'm always listening to what Timothy Bradley talks, because for me, he makes a lot of sense. And I spoke about this, Ramirez, he has a real active lead hand. So if that's his power hand, when he throws it, he's front foot heavy. Therefore, he lingers in position a little too long. Like when he throws that left.
Did we lose Gonzalo?
Hello?
Yeah.
I think so. He just suddenly stopped.
The fuck? Yeah, Gonzalo, we can't hear you, man. But what was he saying about Ramirez? I couldn't really, because I had to.
He was talking about his weight over his front foot. He's a converted right-hander. And
he's a converted right-hander.
A lot of those people convert. It's just I don't like that. It's because whatever their dominant hand is, and when they're learning, it's easier to jab with your dominant hand because you have more control. It's your dominant hand. So a lot of those guys, it's because I don't think the right people got to them when they were younger. I don't like it. I don't like when people use their dominant hand as a jab.
Well, you know what I like about Ramirez? I like how he puts pressure. He puts smart pressure. He does a good job of cutting off the ring. Sometimes he'll take little step backs and then step in. That's difficult to do consistently. He's a good pressure fighter, but it's the last move that he fucks up. Sometimes he'll load up. How many times was he trying to get Pedraza with that overhand right, or right hook rather? It wasn't going to work. But he kept doing it. One single shot. That almost cost him against Victor Postal too, and Cepeda. So he does the first part great. Cut the ring off, making sure he doesn't get hit too much coming on the inside. And then once he's on the inside against the slick fighters, he just fucks up and lets them get away. So I don't know how if there's a way to fix that, there surely could be. But
well, that last punch, how you put that last punch is so true. That's what makes Chocolatito so dangerous. He always catches people stepping out of the pocket. Like, say he throws a 1-2, and you're thinking you're stepped out of the pocket, like you're out of range.
Mm-hmm.
But what he'll do, so you're in regular stance, your left foot forward, and your left hands out jabbing. Throw a combination in that position, but say he goes left, right, but as he throws the right, if he sees you backing up, he'll swing his right foot around to be the lead foot, and then he can throw with the overhand left, or he'll go straight in with the right. But he just covers distance. He's covering distance as you're backing up, so you're not expecting it, because that's something only very talented guys who have the idea of space. When you hear people say they have no space and timing, they don't have no control over their space, that's what makes him so dangerous. He knows when you're out of range, and if you are, he'll swing a foot around without you realizing he's doing it. He'll do it in the middle of a combination, so you realize that now his lead foot is the other foot, so you're not out of range, and he's going to pop your head back. He's always doing that to people, getting them on when they're stepping out of the pocket.
The interesting breakdown right there, Jimmy. I want to talk more about that next time we do a film analysis. In regards to, hold on a second. Yeah, in regards to the Ramirez fight, did you, first of all, the commentating? I know, and I think I just got I think I realized something, that usually now what they're trying to do is have Andre Ward and Timothy Bradley disagree on stuff, or maybe they just do so organically. I don't know, but I get the feeling that they're trying to play them off against each other. But Andre Ward was giving Pedraza no credit during the fight. That's the way I felt. I don't know what you thought about that, Jimmy. Or did you see anything with the commentating that you dislike? Am I crazy here? What's going on?
Well, no, Andre seems to get he likes a fighter and he likes him. I like Ward. I've lost a lot of respect with the Canelo comments. Or he's no different than Tank Davis. Then you realize when you start to put your own feelings in, because let's be honest, he's angry because Canelo did in a year what he couldn't do in all those years at 168. So right away, he already surpassed his accomplishments. And that fries his ass. And then the fact that he retired at 32 and he can't do nothing about it. So you can see he's being petty, catty about it. You know what I mean? Because there's no other reason you can explain. I mean, he was bashed by everybody when he made that comment about, well, he's no different than Tank Davis. So when you make a comment like that, and right now, you know what? Your fan or the people watching boxing, you might even have people hearing you talk boxing who's never even seen you fight. So your word, people look to you because, okay, you're the one who's going to explain this. So you obviously, they need you to know what you're talking about. And then when you turn around and say something as outrageously stupid as Tank Davis is no different than Canelo, you just lost the freaking plot. Like, I'm not going to listen to you again, dude. You're an imbecile. You're either an idiot or you're doing it for some personal reasons. Either way, you're done. I don't want to hear commentating from you anymore.
Yeah, it seems like he's being pulled apart by his two racial identities, and sometimes he'll say something to try to please one side, and then at another time he'll be neutral or actually speak as if he knows what he's talking about. But in any event, yeah, man, this fight's
and I gotta say it's definitely organic with
Bradley.
The guys last night with the DAZN. Listen, you can tell Mannix can't stand freaking no, he can't stand Mora. And you can we're doing that now? They sound like a freaking like a divorced couple at a kids play. They have to sit there together. I mean, they hate each other. They contradict each other, and I mean, you said somebody put a compilation together on a tweet, and it's crazy. Some of their highlights is their arguments, some of the things they say. It gets catty. I mean, put it this way: he called him a monicum. What did he say about Mora? Well, you should understand. You were moderately successful in the game.
Whoa, did he really say that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude. And during an interview, a woman was interviewing both of them about the Garcia Campbell fight, the upcoming fight. And after he said something, Mannix said something, Moore's like, oh, no, man, yeah, I wouldn't call it that. And he's like, well, he said, and then right away, Mannix says, you're going to correct me? You're the fighter. I'm the writer. Don't correct me on what words I'm supposed to use. And you should know about this because you were a moderately successful boxer.
Wow.
Moore rolls his shoulder, bends his neck. Like you could see like if we were on the street right now, dude, you'd be fucking eating my fist. He was bullshit.
Man, that sounds. I'd love to hear more of that to see if it's organic, like you said. But man, yeah, that's a stinger right there. Tomorrow, man. By the way, Bucho says, what did Ward say? Well, we're talking about what Ward. He was giving way too much credit to Ramirez in that fight, and none to Pedraza. Bradley was the one that was giving Pedraza credit, saying, "Look, he's trying to bring him in." Lull him into a big shot. Now, he's not saying that was the best strategy, but he was saying that's what he's planning to do. And that I thought Pedraza was making himself very hard to hit himself. It's not like Ramirez was just going in there and teeing off on him. But I don't know. I guess, listen, Ward is and was a very successful boxer. He's looking at things through different eyes, more experienced eyes. But at the same time, I don't know. It just seemed like when he talks about veteran tactics, which is usually just code for being dirty, and we know what he was all about during his career. So, I mean, the zone, I tried to, they should put a feature on these applications, because now everybody watches through their computers and through their phones. Put a feature on where we can just get rid of the commentators. Because some of them, I'm sorry, I don't want to listen to them. I'd rather enhance the audio of the crowd and of the punches. That way they do in soccer. If you watch soccer in these Latin American channels, they boost the sound up. So you hear the crowd, you hear the fucking chants. It adds some atmosphere to it. I don't want to really listen. You know what? I remember one fight, the Canelo fight. I forget which one it was. I think it was against Golovkin. You could hear the crowd roaring, and then all of a sudden, whoops! They turned something down on the mix with the filter so that you could actually hear the crowd less and the commentators more. And I thought that was, disappointing. But then again, they pay these guys big bucks, so maybe they feel like they have to put these guys in the forefront. In any event, that was Jose Ramirez. Hopefully he gets some big fights down the line. Jimmy, the other fight that we got to talk about, we haven't touched upon, is the undercard for the Chocolatito fight. What a barn burner between Lara and Emilio Sanchez. I mean...
Yeah, that was a freaking back and forth there. Yeah, and stopped him in the third round, end of the third, with a few seconds left, folded him over like a lawn chair. Yeah, that was bad. I want to say Steve Kim, I don't know if he was quoting Larry Merchant or if this is his own take, but it's perfect. The best commentator knows when not to talk. Like, you don't always have to be talking. Larry Merchant would go a whole round without saying a word. You know what I mean? And these guys last night. And what happens when you're constantly like, all right, not Merchant. Who's the kid who took his place? The one whose brother was killed. Max
Kellerman. Yeah.
He makes up all these soliloquies and goes on these long speeches of stuff he looks up to. Well, this reminds me of this guy, and then he goes into this 2-minute speech where he's already wrote this down. He was planning on putting this in somewhere. You know what I mean? It was not off the top of his head to put in filler, and then. So I can't stand that. And then what happens too when you do that? Like last night, for instance, in that round, the third round. Oh, Lara, I don't know if he can handle this. I don't know if this is his stuff. Boom! Oh, Lara destroys it because you're trying to talk so much, you end up contradicting yourself, saying things that are silly. So that's why, like, even when when Steve's done color commentary for fights, he'll just talk when it's necessary. He'll point out things, but that's it. You don't always have to be talking, and that's, I think, a problem with these guys today.
You're absolutely right. One guy I really disliked was Bob Sheridan. Here in Canada, Jimmy, sometimes we because they didn't show Showtime, so if they did, on the rare times they showed some Showtime fights, it was the international feed, and they would have Bob Sheridan on. Actually, if it was a Don King production, and anyway, long story short, Bob Sheridan, that guy wouldn't stop talking. It's like, this ain't radio, pal. This is I can see what's going on. You're just supposed to add a little bit.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's not radio. So true. That's the problem.
Yeah, Jim Blampley was supposed to return. Remember that for that Cambosa?
For the Trilla.
Yeah,
for the Cambosa, but that becomes such a shit show. I don't think he wanted to have his name attached to it.
Oh man, but I hate to say, but even the later years of the HBO commentary, it got downgraded. I mean, it was disintegrating. Lampley became too much of an emotional mess. Kellerman was biased,
and it became tribalistic. They had to push HBO fighters. You know what I mean? The way but at least HBO would list every fighter. I mean, how many times you see on Showtime, they'll act like these fighters in this fighters class doesn't even exist. Remember, they wouldn't even mention Terrence Crawford. It wasn't until Mauro Ronaldo got on there. To all his, he could be a little aggravating sometimes, but at least he's out of all of them, doesn't pull always the company line. And again, you can thank Al Heyman for that. He's the driving force behind the tribalization of the networks, of signing network deals and don't cross the street to fight Showtime. He started that at HBO. He pushed that. He turned everybody off, all executives off at HBO. The numbers went plummeting because he started that low risk, big rewards shit over at HBO before he started the PBC. And they never recovered from it. And everybody in the industry knows that's how it went down. So that's why I started before the people even started. I already had my, thoughts on him. And then the way how he didn't create, like, he's not a boxing guy, not to go on a rant, but he never signed anybody, never took a kid from, okay, let's go look at him, send somebody, go, what do you think? Okay, let's sign him to a deal. Let's work him along. He waits till Showtime. Golden Boy had all these guys under contract, and we all know how he went about there, but I just want to throw that little zinger in there.
Hey, but in regards to no, you're absolutely right, man. Fucking HBO, when it was with Al Heyman, you had Andrew Burton and Paul Williams come to mind with some big mismatches. But I wanted to go back to the ladder fight, the Lara versus Martinez. Somebody in the chat, Felipe, I think, is the one who said that he knew Sanchez from his gym. And because I told him, hey, the last time I saw Sanchez fight, he was getting knocked out. Has he improved? And Felipe said, yeah, he's improved. He's got a heck of an uppercut. And then wouldn't you know it, he started catching Lara with some big uppercuts, like 3-4 in a row. It was a fantastic fight. Got no complaints about the stoppage, Jimmy. The way the guy, Sanchez, fell, his back just gave out, his legs bent over. There was no support. Great stoppage.
That's a classic fold him like a lawn chair. Right? When a lawn chair, you can fold it down like that. That was the classic fold them like a lawn chair.
I was
folding chair, yeah.
I was actually surprised that they showed it's because actually, no, I'm not surprised. As Sanchez got up, he was okay, so that's why they showed the replay right away. Usually if a guy's still laid out...
The ref said after, he said, well, I was calling that fight the minute that idiot tripped me. I was pissed. No, he didn't say that.
No, yeah, somebody said, man, Lara's so heavy-handed. He dropped the ref too. Yeah. But Jimmy, it's interesting. Before the fight, I said, I haven't seen Sanchez's last fights, but what if Lara gets a taste of his own medicine and gets upset, just like he upset Warrington? And it almost happened. What do you make of Lara, and what do you think his chances are at 126 when you guys got like Navarrete, Gary Russell Jr., Maxayo?
Well, is Russell still fighting? Why did I think he retired? Oh, well, probably because he fights like he retired once a year. But yeah, Navarrete, he would. Nazareth dude, he would smoke him.
Nazareth,
I think he would smoke Lara.
Did you call him Nazareth?
Yeah, he would do him. Yeah, Nazareth, Nazarati, Maserati. I call him everything but his real name.
Judah Navarrete. But who else is at 126? I just mentioned a couple of... Okay, Navarrete is there, Maxayo, Mauricio Lara, Warrington still there, Kiko Martinez, who had himself one of the big upsets last year against Kid Galahad, Gary Russell Jr. still there, Lee Wood, who upset Zucan. Zucan's still in there as well. And then you got Joel Gonzalez, who also got himself a victory. Speaking of Gonzalez, I don't know if you saw that fight against, he fought some Filipino dude, Seismic or what, I forget the guy's name. That was another BS.
I don't know why. Yeah, it's not letting me on YouTube. It's just doing the icon spin.
I think we're back on the air. I believe. You saw that fight against, he fought some Filipino dude. All right, yeah.
Yes, we are.
We are? All right, fantastic. All right, so if anybody's out there listening, just refresh your Steam. I don't know if this is going to split into 2 streams. I think it will. All right, yeah, there we go. I think people are saying we're back. All right, fantastic. So sorry about that. MMA champ called in, and he was rocking and rolling. And then I realized, what the fuck? Our system here crashed. I mean, everything was working. The internet.
Yeah, and he said there will be no bad mouthing Chocolatito. He said
that's right
on today's show. That's what he said.
And he called me the N-word, which is not something that usually happens to me. By the way, speaking of MMA champ and Felipe, good job running. They got the prediction league on Discord, and I just want to give you guys. We're back, by the way, so refresh your stream, and you should be able to enjoy the BDA goodness. Wavian. How do you say his name? Wavivan is on the top of the mountain, at the top of the mountain with 28 points. Mac is number 2 with 24 points. Intangible number 3. Boxing Dialogue, Fighting Marine, hashtag Logang, Leo Dario, Reverend Pickles, Felipe, Andre Shooter, Muller, Jug, Office Works, L-Dog, Devin, MMA Champ, 150 Dream Team, shout out to 150, Soothsayer, and all those people, guys. Shout out to you guys for participating in the Prediction League, and shout out to MMA Champ and Felipe for running it and compiling all the results. But a big special shout out to Wavivan. He's on top, but don't get too cocky. Felipe, what's his name? Hold on a sec. Who's right behind him? Mac is right behind him. So join the Prediction League.
It's just a combined, you do the predictions for every fight.
Yes, that's the way it's working, and we've already got people with 28 points or in the 20s, so it's good, man.
Yeah, no kidding. We should get a shirt or something to the winner at the end of the year. Should get something for it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like MMA Champ was thinking about, well, what can we give the winner? And I don't, it's like you got to be careful too, because some people don't want to receive. But some people don't want to give out their address. You know what I mean? They don't want to.
Well, they can have it mailed to work or an aunt's house or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can always have it mailed to somebody else. Where if you don't want it, then the next person will get it.
Yeah, that's a good.
And it's
point,
not like
man.
it's not like giving it to you. It's not like off to the side. It's not like you're going to go doxing them.
No. Yeah, I wouldn't. Well, maybe I would just for the kick of it. But anyway, what was I going to tell you, Jimmy? Because we talked about that undercard, Pedraza. The other thing is this, man. Ryan Garcia, and this is an interesting subject to talk about. I know people don't usually, maybe they might be getting a little bit tired of him, but he's going to come back, supposedly. Hold your breath. Don't hold your breath, rather, with him. But he says that he's received mixed reactions after sharing a mental health struggle. And he says, boxing fans, hold on, let me put it up here so people can read it. Boxing fans are a little bit more harsh than, say, if you're a singer. Even in the NFL or NBA, if you come out to reveal your problems, maybe you'll get a better response. All right, first of all, Jimmy, he said, if you come out to reveal your problems. I think he should have used a different phrase than if you come out, right? Because,
yeah. Well, what catches me in that is boxing fans are different than how they treat, did he say other celebrities or how they treat celebrities? Either way, that's where he puts his mindset. That's how he looks at himself, like a celebrity. And he does that because he was a celebrity, an Instagram celebrity, before he was a boxer. And he's having a hard time separating the two. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that sometimes that's all he's chasing fame, not legacy.
And that doesn't bode well for his prospects as a boxer, because as you and I know, when a guy has one foot out the door or he's got too many options outside of boxing, it's hard to get into that training camp and grind it out, right?
Of course, if you're making money on other ventures, and you're doing well on it, and if that's what you're looking for, popularity, you're already popular whether you fight or not. Yeah, sometimes, like they say, a hungry fighter is the hardest fighter to beat. You're looking at somebody fighting to get themselves out of poverty, and there's a lot on the line. Yeah, when they have no options. That was the whole driving force behind boxing. All right, for instance, what did somebody say? I remember, I think it was Jimmy Cannon, one of the best writers of all time, said the Great Depression made more great boxers than any other thing in the U.S. history. Like in the 1920s, poverty so there was only a few things if you were brawn and tough to make you could become wealthy from it. And it's not like football, you need other people. It's just if you have the balls and the heart and willing to do it and put in the time, you can create something for yourself, money and fame and everything else.
We already saw him drop out for a year or more than a year now.
Pulled out of 2 fights in 1 year.
Right. After his biggest win, this guy's going, you know what? Yep. I got options. He didn't seem to mind dropping out of boxing for a year. And that's something that a guy who's living just off of boxing wouldn't be willing to do all that easily. So, Ryan Garcia, you gotta wonder by the way, here's the other thing. He said, hey, boxing fans are vicious. Yeah, where have we been these past 10 years, man? I mean, just look at our channel.
Exactly.
Our viewers shit on us all the time. And I love it most of the time. But then there's other times where you go, hey, come on, man. What's going on? I mean, they call me a trampire. They make fun of Recognize for selling bootleg DVDs. They make fun of Bucho being a drunk. Somebody left a comment in the last one. He said, somebody said, oh, I wonder if Jimmy can go make it through an episode without talking about Mickey Ward. So that's the type of people we've got. They just love to shit on us. They love us, but they love to shit on us too. And
There's
that's the way it works.
There's always negativeness. And what's funny too, right, is there's majority of the episodes I go, I'm talking about Mickey Ward, but I will mention him if it's something I can, conflate it to what we're talking about. And, I apologize, but he's the only famous boxer
Don't
that
apologize.
I grew up with. I've mentioned other ones.
Don't
I'm being
apologize.
facetious. He can go fucking pound his fist for all I
No.
care. But I was just, but again, it's the only one I happen to know on a personal level, so that's why I probably mention him.
Well, I'll mention Mickey Ward right now, whether people like it or not. Comparing him to Ryan Garcia, that's a guy, Mickey Ward, that wouldn't have been able to take a year off. Or if he would have taken a year off, he would have been pissed about it because no money's coming in if he's not fighting.
Exactly. It's kind of the complete opposite with him because it wasn't even about the money with him because he wasn't making any fucking money. You know what I mean? So it was all about the love of the game, the love of boxing. But that's the reason why guys like Mike Tyson loved Mickey. That's why Mike Tyson, no matter where he was, most of the time would make sure to get on a plane and go to Mickey's fights.
Exactly.
And always be there.
Yeah, and Mike Tyson and Mike McCollum, Chavez, they all respect. Even you remember the Montreal guy, the famous family there. Fuck, why am I forgetting their names? The famous Montreal family boxers, the 3 or 4 Hiltons. The Hiltons. One of those Hiltons guys. Mike Tyson was friends with one of them. I forget which one, but he liked their style. So like they say in the streets, recognize is real.
Yeah.
By the way, Oscar Prince Boateng says Ryan is all sentimental due to him taking birth control and hormonal pills. Oh, come on, man. I'm telling you, people are vicious. Ryan Garcia is right. But here's another thing that Ryan Garcia said, Jimmy. He said, it's been tough hearing all these things about me, all these opinions on why or what's the truth on the reasoning on why I'm not fighting. I gotta hear all about myself and character. But here's the thing, Jimmy. He's putting himself out there on Instagram, on Twitter, Facebook. Like, you can't open up yourself to millions of people and then complain when all these people have an opinion about you, right? Like, you can't have it both ways, is what I'm saying.
All right. For instance, to your point, there's a great picture that's it was tweeted out by DAZN, and it shows Canelo, in the audience, and he's up, got his fist clenched, and I don't know if he's yelling, but he's obviously like wicking into the fight, yelling towards the ring. And then there's Eddie Hearn, a couple other people, and then there's Haney sitting there with his face buried in his phone.
What?
You know what I mean? Oh yeah, looking at you can see in the picture. You got one guy, and like that picture encapsulates them too. One dude sitting there all about the fight, probably doesn't work his own freaking Twitter account, and then you got the other guy with his face buried in the screen.
I mean, I gotta tell you,
I'll post it. I'll post it.
I mean, I remember Chris Bird, Winky Wright, those guys when they're watching a fight or they're at a fight, they're glued to the action. When you got one of those fighters and you see them in the on the crowd via your television set and they're on their phone typing away their next tweet, you gotta wonder what they're all about. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be looking at no fun. I can tell you that right now. Unless somebody was sending me breast pics or something, then maybe I'd be inclined.
Well, I just posted in the Discord that picture what I'm talking about.
Shit. Which you didn't post it on here where we're at.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, no, I know. I never do that right. But yeah, it's the.
Let me see here. What do we got here? Fuck, it's loading up. It's taking too much time. But here we go.
It's in the hashtag BDA boxing.
Yeah, I got it. I got it here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's Haney. And
over there with his father, Bill. Yeah.
At least Bill's watching the fucking fight. Devin Haney's like, well, I mean, listen, a picture taken at a certain point can make it seem, he can tell a different story. You know what I mean? Maybe he glanced at his phone for a second.
To me, it encapsulates the personalities. Like one guy's obsessed with what people are saying about him. You know, he's a social media rat too, but a different generation, just a few years younger, makes the difference. You know, Some guys like him, he's all about the Twitter.
I remember when
Twitter after fights and shit.
I remember when I told somebody that I didn't have a phone, or rather that I have a phone, but I'm not connected to it, and I don't walk around with it. And they were my age, and they were in awe of how I was functioning without it. I'm thinking, well, what the fuck, man? You're supposed. Listen, these people went through life without a phone. They should be able to know what it's like to live without one. But like you said, the people from earlier, for the younger generations, they can't imagine somebody walking outside without a phone. It's amazing. People are dependent too much.
It's an appendage to them. It's a part of them. They're lost without it. I'm so glad. I mean, I'm just pumped because I had a better life. I think kids had a better life. They better personalities. You learn to do things because you couldn't just run to Google with everything. It was just, guys, I mean, the posture amongst kids it's affecting them. You watch, it'll be a couple of generations down the line, kids will be born with their heads bent a little more forward or something.
Oh my goodness.
Because they're always just looking down at the freaking phone. Mm-hmm. And then when you try to talk to them face to face, they're not used to actual, I'm used to talking and getting a delay. Look at my phone. So it's an issue. I always knew it was going to be an issue. I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was, though.
Technology takes every time technology gives you something, it takes away something as well. It's that's the way it works, man. It's a trade-off.
Exactly. Well said.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Speaking of technology, Jimmy, let's go to the phone call. We're gonna wait. Well, that's the great part of technology. We get
Good
to talk.
segue.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's go to 619. You're on the air. 619. What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, guys, just real quick. I don't know if my connection's going to be stable or not. Just want to say what's up. This is Bolt Hype. And then, because for example, when you posted that picture, I heard you guys on the call. You said you're posting some picture. The whole line started staticking, and it almost sounded like you're going to drop out. So, even whatever you guys are posting, the trading or whatever, is affecting my line and ability to hear you even on the phone call. So, just want to put that out there that. Don't upload lots of medias when you have guys on the calls. It's probably going to mess up the stat. I mean, it's probably going to cause static. You know what I mean?
Yeah, probably. Bolt Hype, where have you been, man? I haven't seen you around the YouTube streets in a while.
Bro, you were supposed to contact me. You said you're going to do some kind of end-of-year awards ceremony or something like that, and I never got a call. I never got contacted, so I don't know where everyone's been. But no, it's been great, man. I've just really been loving this all the YouTube content you guys are putting out, and I like your guys' formats because I think it's more my style. I'm more like a Gen Y, so I like the radio format that you guys do, and I like the call-in format. I think that's pretty cool, and the live show element, and I like the regular guests and panelists that you guys have. It works, man. I know you guys are big on ID and being anonymous. Otherwise, I think you guys are. If you can find a way to professionalize this, I don't see. I was at the fight yesterday, Chocolatito. I didn't hear the DAZN broadcast at all. So I just see what I see. I'm scoring it with my eyes. I hear the crowd. I'm not influenced by whatever they're talking about on the streams. So I have no idea what's happening. And even on Twitter, I'm not even posting that much because I'm sitting there watching a fight. I'm into it, and at the same time, I know that there's probably a delay. I don't want to spoil it for people. I don't know if that affects betting odds or anything like that. So these guys get excited when I'm here. Sorry about that.
Yeah, don't worry.
But as I was saying, I'm sitting there. I'm in the zone. I'm really enjoying this fight, and it's crazy. You guys mentioned social media because I'm trying not to tweet. But I feel like the journalists and the judges and everyone, they're used to putting their heads down and making notes a lot of times. And you will see the boxers kind of, if they see a guy who they're looking at and you're not watching them, they're not really going to fight yet. So I kind of felt a couple times the fighters were like, hey, man, as soon as you put the phone away, we're getting ready to start. You know what I mean? So that's my point on the social media.
Well, that's an interesting point. Good to hear that you were at the fight, by the way. That's what an honor to see Chocolatito. And what did you think of the undercard as well, man? Lara versus Sanchez. What a crazy fight, right?
No, it was great because I positioned myself perfectly in the corner, which I know probably people wouldn't assume, but I wanted to look right at the fighters, like you know, the both the blue corner and the red corner. You know, like I was sitting right there, looking right at Reynoso and Martinez. Every time Martinez would sit down, and then Reynoso would stay behind the rope. And his father, I think, or someone who's closer with Martinez would be the one that's right in front of him. And then sometimes Reynoso jumped in. Later on, he was getting more into it. But Chocolatito would also turn around behind him. He was sitting down, but if he turned directly behind him, he looked over to the crowd where we were. And there were a lot of there were actually quite a lot of Nicaraguans there, actually. I'd say it was probably like 25% or maybe a good third. There were a lot of flags, Nicaraguan flags, and all of a sudden it got real loud, and you're like, "Whoa! I didn't know there were all these Nicaraguans here." It was pretty wild, man. Overall, it was all, there were no fights. There was one scuffle that kind of broke out right at the second round of the Gonzalez Martinez fight. But then the crowd was like, "Hey guys, we're trying to watch this fight here. Like, we don't want you guys fighting. Get the heck out of here." So it didn't even break out. Honestly, most people are pretty sick and lazy. They're not going to do much. They just want to sit down with their beer and just yell and scream and point. But there are very rare people are actually going to get up out of their seat to do much of anything. So the security handled it. We got back onto the show. It was all good. No fights, no issues. There was one, I try to stay low profile. There was one little, I wouldn't say a brush up, but something, we avoided it, which thank God we avoided it, but someone basically tried to punk me, and I didn't realize what was happening at the time, and I just went into my natural, like, you know, red alert mode, and I really almost had to teach him a lesson. The guy eventually apologized. There were two guys. They kind of came up on me in a weird way. I wasn't expecting it. And as they were trying to, you know, walk away and defuse the situation, I looked at their back and it said team, and I won't say the name. I won't say the fight camp's name, but I guess it was a couple of the fighters' team. And I didn't mean to start anything. I just want to put that out there.
Well, first of all, anybody that picks a fight with you, Bold Hype, I don't know what they would be thinking, but I don't think we'd be hearing about them, or actually we would be hearing about them in the newspapers, and it wouldn't be good. I can tell you that much right now. So, Bold Hype, thank you for your report, your ringside report. It was concise, precise. I loved it. And by the way, don't forget, we're doing an open lines Friday now, where everybody can jump in. It's a bit of pandemonium because we don't put a limit on how many people can join. So sometimes it's 20 people and everyone's talking over each other. But that's the fun of it. And if you want to drop by, Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern. All right, man? Oh, he hung up. Shit, I was talking to myself. All right, shout out to Bold Hype for his call. Hopefully he'll hear what I had to say. Let's go to 267.
I was listening.
There you go, Jimmy. 267, you're on the air. 267, what's on your mind?
What's up? It's Philly Irish. How you guys doing?
Oh, Philly, it's been a while since we've heard from you, man. What's up?
I just been chilling, man. Like, I see you guys talking about Ryan Garcia, and I don't know. Here's my point about it. I don't think the kid has his head or his heart into the sport. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought him going to Reynoso would be about he's trying to take the sport seriously, and he didn't really take it seriously with Reynoso. So I don't know why Golden Boy even wasted their time trying to promote this kid when you have fighters like Rashid Ellis, who beat Alexis Rocha on the show for over a year. Ever since he beat Rocha, this kid hasn't been put up for a fight or anything. Roger Ortiz hasn't fought in almost a year. And like, you have Rocha, the guy that Ellis beat 4 or 5 months ago. Now you got him booked again to fight Blair Cobbs, who hasn't fought in over a year. I don't understand what's Golden Boy's logic in how to.
I think it's financially, brother. I think they're just looking at him by his. When you sign on a fighter as a promoter, you want name recognition. Obviously, that's the most important thing to you as a promoter. Helps obviously sell the fights, and I think they just look at his popularity on Instagram. and maybe his polarization, but they know it brings viewers in, whether they want to see him get killed or they're his fan. But I think that's the number one reason, because I guarantee you, Oscar would agree with you. This kid some days isn't worth the fucking headaches, and that's really what he's become.
Yeah, you're right. And the other thing, those avenues. I know you're on DAZN, but how many shows is DAZN really going to push out anymore? That huge budget, that $1 billion budget they had. I mean, Canelo's fights are pay-per-view now through DAZN, which is supposed to be streaming only. So avenues and sites where you're going to have the fight kind of slows fighters down these days.
Well, Philly Irish. Well, just real quick, because we got to call it Philly Irish. Yep. What do you think about that? Anything else you want to say about that?
And I just hope he don't get the Kambosos fight, because he's not deserving that Kambosos fight.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, they're still negotiating, and Hearn says it's looking good. Philly Irish, also you said that Ryan Garcia, you don't think he has his head on him. I think somebody in the chat saying because he's too busy giving it, if you know what I mean. What are your prospects? Philly, what do you think about Ryan Garcia, and do you think he's in line to get upset in his next fight?
Can you repeat that again? I didn't hear the full question. Do
you think he's next for an upset?
You know what? I really think he could, because he has the same weakness as Amir Khan does. When he punches and like flurries and everything, even punches, he leaves his chin out like Amir Khan, and it leaves him open to get countered. And I believe he's eventually, if you put him in there with a good puncher or with an awesome boxer that has some power with him, that can really knock him out.
Interesting. Yeah, man, the chin up in the air doesn't help either. You're absolutely right about that. Man, I tell you something, crazy days and crazy nights over here. Anything else you want to say, Philly?
Yeah, David Haynes going to probably get the Kambosos fight by default if Ryan Garcia don't get it.
Yeah, probably, man, probably. Well, listen, Philly, thank you for your call. Good hearing from you again, and don't be a stranger, man. Call back next time.
All right, thanks.
Take it easy, man. Let's go to the wildcard line. I think it might be MMA champ. 111, you're on the air. 111, what's on your mind?
This nigga BDA tried to sabotage my call. You know, shame on you, BDA.
Sorry
for trying to sabotage me. But anyway, like I was saying, listen, if you don't think Chocolatito is pound for pound and a legend after this performance, you don't know anything about boxing.
Oh,
Chocolatito, well said.
I mean, listen, Chocolatito showed that he's the best in this weight class. I mean, he's willing to take any fight. He wanted to fight Estrada again. That fight fell through, so he fought the best next option, which was Julio Cesar Martinez. He put on a boxing clinic. He completely destroyed Julio Cesar Martinez. I mean, we all know Julio Cesar Martinez is tough, so I didn't really think Chocolatito was going to knock him out. But, I mean, Chocolatito's defense was great. Like I said in my call before it got, messed up or whatever, I said Chocolatito was looking slow a little bit, and his offense has regressed a little bit. But, I think Chocolatito beats Ioka, everybody, every champion in the division. I think Chocolatito is here to stay, and I think, it just proves, he's a legend. And also I want to talk about Lara. Mauricio Lara is a great fighter. He just knocked out I forgot his name. He knocked out a
Sanchez.
guy yesterday, and he's what's that guy's name?
Sanchez. Sanchez.
He's Warrington's father. He's Warrington's father.
Yeah.
Mexican father. Warrington was adopted by him in
come on, man! Wait a minute.
In a pub in Mexico.
Well, it's not called a pub. It's
Mauricio Lara versus Max Sayo is a fight to make. I think Mauricio Lara is going to have Max Sayo crook walking all over the ring. It's going to be. I think he's going to get knocked out, Max Sayo. And
Hey,
it
by
was
the
a
way,
great night of fights.
yeah, man, I was going to say before you go, because I know you hang up impromptu. Good job with the prediction league, man. We got to get together and talk about, Felipe, you and me, and we got to come up with something, some sort of a prize, like you said, to whoever wins that one.
All right. But yeah, before I hang up, listen, everybody, I know Bucho's in the chat. Drop the link to the Discord, Bucho. Everybody, if you want to join the prediction league that we're having in the BDA boxing server, right now it's very fun. All you have to do is predict the contest every weekend, and this is actually proven who's the best predictor in the YTBC. So I see a lot of people saying they know all these fights, like the Pig, Johnny Boy, but if you don't join the prediction league, you don't know anything about boxing.
Absolutely. All right, there he
Yeah,
goes.
good job on that MMA too. Like BDA said, appreciate you taking care of that.
Yeah,
Thank
him
you.
and Felipe are in the chat.
Yeah, Felipe, both you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, listen. He says Chocolatito is on a rampage. He does. I mean, he wants to see him fight Ioka. Those are all good fights, man. Those are all good fights. Now, I wanted to bring something up here in regards to the Catterall versus Josh Taylor fight, because there's people now that are complaining about the result and they want some action taken on it. And there was this article on Ring Magazine, or Ring TV rather, where they were talking about with Robert Smith, who I think is the chairman, or I don't know what you call him, the general secretary of the British Boxing Board of Control. And he said he had Catterall winning. He didn't have it that wide, but he had him winning, and that they're going to be looking into it. I think this is something that should have been done a long time ago, but I don't have too much faith when they say, well, we're going to look into it. Because they said that we're going to do it. Every time a fighter suffers a defeat and it's a bad decision, he says, I'm going to contest it with the commission, and then nothing happens. Is this just more fluff talk from these people to make it seem as if they're going to do something about it? What do you guys think?
Probably.
Lip service. Yeah.
When has a fight been overturned for anything other than a no contest outside of the ring?
Exactly.
When has a decision ever gone one way and then all of a sudden, nope, we rescored it, and guess what? We're going to go ahead and take it. We're going to take this belt away, and we're going to give it to the other guy. Because usually when you do that, that's not the same night. Like what happened with Stevie Johnson against Jose Luis Castillo. One of the fights was called a certain way. I think the first one was a draw, and they went back and rescored it, and then Stevie Johnson had to give the belt to Castillo. And but it was a draw, and then no one's ever taken a title, especially a title fight, and said, oops, this guy really didn't win, we're going to give it to the other guy and change the decision. I've never seen that. If somebody has seen it, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never seen it. I've seen things change to no contest, but that's usually like, oops, someone popped positive after they got a win, and so we can't let them be the winner after they've broken the rules, so we'll no contest it, or something along those lines. I've never seen anyone look into anything and say, yep, he's not the champ anymore, we're going to give it to the other guy.
Yeah, that's why, like Jimmy said, this all appears to be lip service. The other thing that people were talking about, and I'm glad people are talking about this, the clinching from Catterall, because this is something that we got to put a stop to, guys. It's not clean boxing. Clinching is against the rules. People love to talk about, whenever I bring this up, people tell me, well, it's always been around. That's the way, it's always been around. Yeah, you know what else has been around? Headbutts, low blows, and elbows. You don't see people permitting that. I mean, look, do I think Catterall would have beaten Josh Taylor? Well, without the clinching, we'll never know. That being said, the one thing I do not enjoy is some people that are Josh Taylor fans now are using this as an excuse to cover Josh Taylor's ass. The clinching had nothing to do with Catterall snapping Taylor's head back with those left hands from the outside. So that was Josh Taylor's fault right there as well. Right? I mean, listen, Josh Taylor, remember, before this is when I realized Josh Taylor can't fight from the outside too much, is when he was going to fight Prograis, I thought he was going to box him from the outside because I'd seen him do it against Ryan Martin. But then he was getting outboxed in the first round and a half or 2 rounds against Prograis, and then he said, okay, I'm going to take it to the inside. And Prograis was like, fine, whatever, I'll fight you on the inside too. But against Catterall, the clinching didn't allow him to do that, so it could have been a different fight. But at the same time, it did expose the fact that Josh Taylor, he's not an outside fighter. He's not the complete and total package. He's pound for pound because his resume speaks for itself. But you got to wonder whether those lack of skills are going to cost him, especially at 147.
Well, we just saw it did. Oh, sorry. Go, Chief.
No, you go first, Jimmy. It's okay.
Well, I was just going to say, I think we saw that. And I think he's caught some guys at the right time. Again, even the fights he's won, he's never really blown people out. I mean, some people thought Prograis when, it's not like he hasn't been going out there and dominating people, but it just goes to show you, nut up and fight the good guys. Because if you do, there's a chance you can win if you're at that level. And, look at now, because 19 fights, he's a talk of in the top 10 fighter just because of his resume, not because of his abilities, right?
Right.
All right, Chief, what were you going to say, brother?
It's the fight he was taking, and he was performing well against these guys. How talented was this division? I mean, that's always a subjective topic on how good was his era versus Crawford's versus Danny Garcia's versus, who was Cesar Chavez's era. And so that part's subjective. But he beat all of the top guys that were there. He beat them decisively. He may not have blown anybody out of the water, but when at the end of the day, even though the Ramirez fight was kind of close and the Prograis fight was kind of close, few people actually say, yeah, well, he shouldn't have been the champ. Everybody knew he was the champ. Maybe some fights could have gone either way, but nobody said, I haven't heard too many people saying he was gifted to me. I haven't heard them say the things they said about Andre Ward at 168. I'll put it that way. And so everyone was pretty much on the same page of this is the champion here. Maybe not one of the greatest ever, but this is the top dog here. And in an era of very few undisputeds where he went out there and sought it, made it happen. Of course, he had the financial backing to make it happen. That's a very key point that some people are overlooking. He had the financial backing to make it happen, where he was pretty much the only promoter, and his promoter was pretty much the only one in town to put all these things together. Then you're able to get these kind of things done. Now, having said that, we've actually noticed, probably never really brought it up on the air, but like you said, BDA, he's an inside fighter. So, great. He was able to do that because of his height and probably his next day weigh-in weight at 140. What's he going to do at 147 where the guys are his height? They have about the same amount of reach. They're probably coming down from a higher weight. They definitely, as far as, even though I think Thurman's close to a shot fighter, Thurman and Spence both fought at 152 as amateurs. Because that's what welterweight is in the amateurs. It's when you translate the kilograms to pounds, it's 152. And I think he may not be big enough to body these guys off. He may be fighting on the inside, but he'll be fighting off the back foot inside against bigger, stronger guys. And that may not bode well for him.
Jimmy, do you think Taylor, especially if because let's face the facts, I think most top fighters, especially pound for pound fighters, are on supplements, if you know what I mean. Do you think Josh Taylor with a little added muscle on those ribs of his can actually become a danger at 147? A little bit more weight behind those shots.
Yeah, he'd have to get used to that size. I mean, I've been saying from the beginning, if he went to Josh Taylor, even before the Catterall fight, if he went up to 147 without a warm up, he's lunch. If he went right to Crawford at 147,
right.
Yeah, but Crawford's the only one I can see. And we know I'm a big Crawford fan, but we don't know what Spence has got left with all the damage that's been done to his body in and out of the ring. Ugas is big enough to where he could probably give him a handful of fight. I think Danny Garcia is one step away from showing us the fact that he's either ring rusted beyond belief or washed up. Porter's retired. And then we know good and darn well that nobody is going to fight Ennis or Ortiz until the other guys are out of the way and they're ready to take either vacant titles or something like that, because the current crop's not going to fight them. So for him to cut his teeth, I agree with you, Jimmy. He should get used to the weight first, but I really don't see anybody who's prime enough outside of, and I know he's old, coming up on 35-ish, but of the crop that's there, I don't see anyone that's at the top primed enough in their prime to where he's going to get a total shellacking. Like, I don't see Spence totally wiping. He may knock him out late, but early it's going to be a fight. They're both they're about the same
exactly.
height.
Not Spence. Spence wouldn't drop him. No, I agree with you.
And Black Lomachenko said DSG is washed. He's agreeing with me. So
yeah, he's moved to 154 now officially, hasn't he?
On paper maybe, but has he had a fight yet? Is anything scheduled?
No. And I was going by because I guess that's who he was calling out. He was saying, "I'd like to go to 147, face Crawford." Obviously, because Crawford back then was with Top Rank, and it was a fight that could be made. I just think it'd be crazy. I mean, maybe he can work with the DAZN. Maybe he can go with Conor Benn. Or I just think you need something, no matter who, at 147. I just think to go up to that weight class and take on what I think is the best right now at 147, I think would have been a mistake. Now, after seeing this last fight, I know it would be a mistake. I think Crawford would clean his clock.
Agreed with Crawford just because of what he's capable of doing. He's a better outside or he used to be a better outside fighter than people give him credit for, but he's staying inside the pocket and being a big inside fighter lately. And which is Taylor's game. So I really don't see that benefiting him, even though he's left-handed. Taylor isn't he? I'm pretty sure, if I'm a little off, but I'm pretty sure.
I believe he does fight southpaw.
And I think that primarily Crawford's right-handed, but lately he's been staying a lot in that southpaw stance. So it'd be two southpaws fighting on the inside.
Yeah.
I think it'll be an interesting fight. I don't see anybody else really worrying for him to have. Doesn't say that he beats any of them, but I don't see them beating him up. I think with his height, his reach, and when I mean reach, I mean Riddick Bro reach of how he's able to turn his shots on the inside with those long arms to get leverage, not necessarily on the outside, fully extended reach. I think that he can hold his own because they say he walks around 160 pounds anyway. So he's going to be somewhat big enough to hold his own with those guys with the extra weight to back up his legs. But is that weight going to slow his hand speed down? Look what from 118 to 122 did to Donaire. He had all the tools to beat Rigondeaux. He just couldn't put it all together at the same time.
That's a good point.
At 122. He was strong enough because he knocked him down. He was fast enough because he could hit him. He could cut the ring off, but he couldn't do all three things at the same time.
That's a excellent point, man. It's going to be, and it seems like Crawford seems to want that fight more rather than fighting Spence or any of the other dudes. Let's see what the people out there have to say in the phones. Don't forget the phone lines are open at least for another half hour. 419, you're on the air. 419, what's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on, BDA?
Oh, T-Tone, what's up, man?
Hey, okay, what's up, man? Hey, okay, you guys are talking about an interesting subject, I come to give my point of view on the Taylor. Well, really, Ben Davidson, that guy.
Oh.
Hey, I didn't call and complain, after the Taylor Ramirez fight, because what's done is done. But man, I'm glad this stuff happened, because the only way to beat a cheater is to cheat. I'm talking about the clinch and turning into holding, as a game plan. They're teaching it as a game plan. And man, it ain't right in boxing.
Now, Tito, just real quick, you're referring to Josh Taylor clinching Ramirez late in their fight, right?
No, the whole fight.
Oh, the whole fight.
hey, you know what? If you want to clinch, all right, like Old Mills Lane, hey, work your way out. No, the ref, boxing game plan, Josh Taylor throws his 3-4 punches, he clinches, and the ref comes and breaks him up and don't let the other guy work out. Do it over. Do it again, Taylor. No, man, you got to let the guy work out if you're going to let him hold,
Yep.
So I thought it was a beautiful game plan that Cap had. He said, I'm going to hold you. I'm going to do that to you. And it put the ref in a bad spot. Ref couldn't say shit, right? Because if he caught holding, he couldn't help Taylor. So, it made the fight even,
Right.
If you want to hold and cheat.
Well, that's an interesting point.
But I'm glad that came out, because BD, in the last few little bit in boxing, man, the clinching is part of boxing, but not holding. So I'm hoping that this wakes up. In the UK, the Van Davidson. This can't be the game plan to win a fight. Let the other guy hold and then don't let the other guy work his way out.
Mm-hmm.
You're
preaching to the choir. You're preaching to the choir, man.
If you let him hold, you got to let the other guy try to get off too.
Right.
You just don't let him hold. And I'll tell you this, my guy got ripped off.
Oh.
Until when Ramirez got knocked down the second time, he was coming back. And if they wouldn't have had that game plan of letting the ref coming in breaking it up every time Taylor clinched, Ramirez would have never got knocked down. And if you watch that fight, that's boxing common sense.
Well, listen, Tito,
So,
we've got a bit of a delay here between you and I. I hope you're not on your Bluetooth because sometimes I can create a delay. But we do have to move on to another call. But anything else you want to say before we move on?
No, that's just the point of. I wanted to get that out on Taylor. Let's stop the cheating, and I'll talk to you later, BDA.
All right, Tito, great call, man. Thank you for calling in. Catch you on the next one. Take it easy out there.
All right.
All right. He makes a good point because, look, listen, I hated what Catterall was doing to Taylor in that fight. But Taylor, now I don't remember Taylor doing it throughout the whole fight against Ramirez, but I do remember us talking about it after the fight, how he was doing it after the knockdown, the second knockdown. He sort of coasted a little bit and it wasn't as bad as Catterall's, I can tell you that. But you can also bring up the same point. Hey, could Ramirez have inflicted more damage in those later rounds had Josh Taylor not held so much? Food for thought. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, agreed. I don't mind strategic clinching with a free hand because then both guys. Now, if I'm locking one arm up and I'm wailing away, basically holding and hitting, but if both guys have the same leverage to be able to try and work their way out of the clinch, and like Richard, people can hate Steele, 2-second Steele all they want to, but he was very good at saying work your way out, and which let both fighters know. Until one person's got too much of an advantage, or until you guys both stop and hold, if you had a free hand, I'm letting you guys, and he'd slap a hand away sometimes. Just like if one guy had like the cuffs under, so his arms through and then up and over the guy's shoulder, he'd knock it down, which basically is a safe way of making sure the guy's arm's not going to get broken in an arm bar, and he just knocks it down and says, okay, go back to fighting. Kenny Bayless, on the other hand, they say it's Mayweather's referee. He did quite a few of Manny Pacquiao's also in that conversation. But what he would do is if someone like Ward or Mayweather would get their pot shots off first and then they'd clinch, stop, break. Well, the other guy doesn't get a chance to fight their way out of it. Tony Weeks let Mayweather and Maidana fight their way out of clinches. Bayless would stop the fight a second they clinched. Well, when is Maidana going to get his chance to try and fight his way out? Because if you're going to let Mayweather do a 1-2 and hold, 1-2 and hold, 1-2 and hold, the other guy doesn't get any chance to fight.
Exactly, that's an advantage.
Well, that's the reason. Yeah, it's the reason why he wanted Bayless. You know what I mean? Because he was conducive to what he did. So it was helpful that he would break people up in that capacity. I want to say too about Josh Taylor. One thing, what I don't like about him recently is he's embraced ring rust. To him, that's not an affliction that needs to be avoided at all costs. To him, it's a freaking career choice. After the things he said about, I'm good with fighting once, twice a year. Okay, well, you can be good with that, but I guarantee you, your skill set just bottomed out. You're not going to get any better fighting like that.
Exactly, absolutely.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Now, I want to read a super chat here. Good points, guys. I want to read a super chat here from Chris K, a.k.a. Undercover Asian. Thank you for your contribution. He says, Julio Cesar Martinez's career... So Julio Cesar Martinez with a career-changing beating needed mercy stop. Yeah, man, I mean, that was the type of fight. It was those type of flush punches he was taking, head-snapping punches. Those are very dangerous, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's immobile right now in bed, watching a couple of telenovelas. I would have a hard time believing that he's being able to walk right now. And shout out to Chris K for his contribution, and shout out to Frankie Sands for his contribution with the super chat. He says, hey, BDA, love all you guys. Question, will Bivol have a hydration clause against the red-headed cheating piece of shit? Well, shout out to Frankie. No, there is none. Shout out to Frankie. There isn't, from what nobody's talked about it, so... Yeah, man.
Yeah, Steve Kim tweeted that out, that there will be it's a straight 175, rehydration clause to this fight.
I think
there is probably because Bivel's a smaller light heavyweight.
Yeah. I mean, I think even with the if there were a rehydration clause, I still think Bivol beats him. But there is no rehydration clause. So if Canelo beats him, I don't know what's going to happen. I guess it's supposed it also depends on how he beats him, but I guarantee you that the internet's going to be lit after that fight. Speaking of lit, we got a phone call here, lighting up the phone lines. Let's go to 301. You're on the air. 301. What's on your mind?
Hey, BDA. Hey, guys. Yeah, I wanted to talk about this interesting point you made about clinching. I think it's, like an art that's part of boxing, but it has to be done right. But aside from, like, having a referee that's, like, patient enough to let guys work out of the clinch, I feel like fighters need to kind of be aware and do something like Lomachenko does consistently, where they put their head into the guy's chest and start pulling away to signal that, look, the guy's just holding me, like he's not actually trying to work. He's just trying to hold and smother me. And I feel like refs need to, actually honor that and break them up faster in those exchanges. But, I feel like boxing would be kind of stale without clinches, too. That's like the majority of Roberto Duran's career. I think that's, a marvelous thing to see. Like, if you're like framing someone, trying to turn them, securing hooks to gain positional advantage on the inside, that's technique. That's like, that's furthering offense. But if you're just trying to smother someone and push down on them, you got to take a point away sooner. Like, there's so many times where Mayweather's just like leaning on a guy, and then like there are these dumbasses who talk about, it's such a an interesting technique. It's such a strategic advantage. No, he's just fucking leaning on the guy. He's not doing shit. Like that. That's not like that's not fighting. That's just draining the opponent. And Tyson Fury was immediately guilty of this throughout the Wilder fights, which I thought he should have been deducted a point multiple times for just literally putting his fat ass on the Wilder. So,
yeah, that was ugly.
To give the LDC fans a little bit of credit there.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I really wanted to talk about, aside from that, was Jose Ramirez, because this Pedraza fight, this is like the fourth time now where he came up and kind of disappointed. You go all the way back to when he fought Zepeda. I think this was 2018 something. Could have arguably lost that fight. Okay, fought Postal. Same thing. You could have argued that he lost that fight to Postal. The fight against Taylor, obviously wasn't a great performance. He didn't seem to be on, and Kenny Davis didn't do a good job there, but he was very reckless. And one thing I noticed about him is his plan of attack is a bit strange to me. He really likes to land that half jab, half uppercut, half hook when he's lunging in, and that's it's an eye-catching shot, but it doesn't seem to do a lot of damage because you don't have any torque. Your feet aren't planted. You're just lunging in and hoping for the best. You're just kind of using your body weight to hit the guy, and that'll disrupt the fighter's rhythm. But that's not a shot you can gain kind of consistent work out of. So I guess I'm pointing this out because I'm kind of examining Josh Taylor's resume. And I initially thought that, his run 140 was superior to Crawford and all that. But now I'm not so sure. Crawford fought Felix Diaz, fought a number of other guys I think were tough and skilled. And I think it's about even. But, Crawford, whatever you say about him, even in the Postal fight where a lot of people say he switched off there and didn't go for the finish, he still dominated that fight. He with the lateral movement alone, he kept Postal from, landing his jab. And on the inside, land some nice shots. So, moving up-wise, Josh Taylor, he seems anthropometrically a little disadvantaged. Like, he doesn't have as long arms. I don't know if he really is as strong or as big as Crawford. And he's not skilled. So, I don't really see what he's going to do to him. So, those are my thoughts on that situation.
Excellent thoughts, man. Excellent breakdown of that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this clinching thing has got to stop, man. I'm adamant about that.
Yeah.
But, anything else you want to say?
I did want to really quickly, though.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. I just want to talk about Roman Gonzalez, the Chocolatito, real quick, because, like you said, BDA, he did seem to slow down to my eyes as well, unfortunately. I watched the Khalil Yafai fight a number of times, because I think that's a great performance of his, where he really broke that guy down and had an answer for everything he was doing. And you watch the output there, he was just constantly turning, pivoting, hitting. And he was getting caught there. But, he just brushed those shots off and just kept going. He didn't really lose face. Against Martinez, I don't know if it was the power, but he was getting a little tentative in there. He was getting phased by the power here and there. He was stopping the action. And the sixth round, he looked like he was going to finish him, but he kind of let him off the hook, which is kind of unusual for Gonzalez. So I think that at this point in his career, he's winning these fights by virtue of really just making fewer mistakes than the other fighter consistently. Like, he's just, his footwork is so good that it's just hard to hit him when he's vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's losing speed. He's not doing that thing which I've always admired him in his career, where he loads up the second punch by throwing the first punch. Like you throw the left hook, and then with the same motion throw the right hand. And there's so many moments where Martinez would kind of linger on the ropes and would wait for Gonzalez to throw the left hook for example, and just hang back on them to avoid that shot. That would be a perfect opportunity to rake him there with that little short right hand that he knocked Moises Fuentes out with. I mean, I know it's a different fight, different level, but it is coming to that point where he's 34. He's been in so many wars. He's, his athleticism is going. So I don't know. I hope he gets a few good paydays, honestly, and kind of calls it, because he's probably one of the best fighters I've seen since Finito Lopez, man. Like, this guy's an incredible fighter.
I think he's better than Finito.
Very talented.
Yeah, I think at this point. Absolutely, man. No, I think he's better. I mean, at least in terms of resume, I think he's proving that he's better than Finito, man. But listen, great call, man. You broke it down perfectly. Call back next time, all right, man?
All right. Happy Sunday, guys.
You too, man. Take it easy.
Take it easy.
Yeah, excellent call, man. He really did. I mean, in all aspects, when you talk about the Taylor fight, the Gonzalez fight. But yeah, Jimmy, I mean, Gonzalez, he didn't go to too many wars, but he was fighting these last 5 years, bigger guys, all that sparring, all that training, those training camps. He's been fighting at the world-class level since 2008. It takes its toll, right?
Yeah. Well, I think people over spar. Steve Kim was talking about that last too. If I remember correctly, I believe it was amongst trainers. I always knew the old timers. They would say once a guy's in his career, in the flow of his professional career, should spar 3 rounds to every 1 round they fight. So you spar 30 rounds. I know a lot of people say, I spar 10 rounds, per. So I spar 10 rounds for every 1 round. That's just too much. It's too much sparring. It's too, and I think too many guys do that now. They spar more than they fight. It's just not necessary.
It's quite fortuitous.
And I also want to say that, it's up to the corner too, man. These cornermen, I don't know if they don't want to get in the bad side of these referees, but Christ, do you remember fucking Luda Duver and shit? You fucking asshole! Yelling at the referee and shit. You asshole! He punched him in the nuts. But these guys don't get into it. It's up to your corner to say, ref, he's clinch and do something. If human nature, you get on someone about that. I don't care who it is. You mention it, it's going to put it in his forehead, in his mind. And if you sit there in your corner and not say nothing. Come on. But you know what I want to say about corners too?
Jimmy, can I just say something?
Yes.
Can you? Yes. Can you hold down the fort? Go balls out, man.
Right.
I'll be back in about 2 minutes, all right, man? Go ahead.
Alrighty. Yeah. No. Last night it was Sergio Mora. It was going on and on about how you know what, he could fight. There's no shame in just you're overmatched and quitting, and he didn't use the word quit, but just throwing the towel. And it's well, Sergio, that's kind of probably why people looked at you the way you did, where they did. True fighters don't want to just throw in the towel because they don't want that knockout loss on their record. That's a big difference between losing a unanimous decision and being stopped by somebody. So it was just funny because he was sitting there saying, well, I think the corner should, think about stopping. And I guess the announcer was shaking his head, and Morris said, well, I see you shaking your head, Todd, but it's the corner's job to stop the fight if you guys taking too much shots. Fast forward to the corner the next time, it was 30 seconds later, there was Reynoso's telling him, listen, you got to lay it on the line. You got to be willing to die in there. So it just completely blowing up everything Mora was saying. But then again, I think, Mora is Mora. He is who he is. Never was a big fan of his to begin with. I mean, if I remember correctly, didn't he get his claim to fame was on that Fighter series, Sylvester Stallone's thing or some bullshit, which is odd because he actually has the #1 sellout. Him and Fernando Vargas. Jesus Christ, sorry. But yeah, so I don't know. Hold on 1 second. Somebody's BDA, you back yet, brother? Oh, obviously not. Is anybody else on there? Just myself. All right. What else? How about calling in, guys? Help out if somebody called in right now. I don't know what else to carry on about. What else I see last night? I didn't. Nope. Yeah.
I'm back, man. I was listening to what you were saying, and that's the thing about this. If I were a trainer, like you said, the fighter is very few fighters are gonna say, "Hey, stop the fight," right? They do it in code, like they'll do my hand, or they won't respond when a fighter asks them, "Do you want me to stop the fight or whatever?" And they'll look like they're zoned out because they don't want to. No, nobody wants to admit, "Hey, stop the fight for me." So as a trainer, if somebody's taking a beating, I would say, "Look, I'm stopping the fight." You know, even if the guy protests, even if he holds it against me for the rest of his life, we've seen what happened with Margarito and Pacquiao. Margarito, balls of steel, but it ruined his career. That beating ruined his career. So yeah, people have to know when to stop it. And it's also interesting, Jimmy, because Mora was one of the commentators was, "Man, this fight, Martinez Gonzalez, they better stop it, blah blah blah. He's gonna die in there." And then you hear in the last round, Reynoso tells, or one of the Martinez's trainers goes, "This is the last round. You gotta die for it." So it was completely different mentalities from
exactly. That's what I was saying. Yeah, Mora was trying to convince the announcer that no, it's you should just throw it in right now. And it was odd that he would be saying that, but yeah. And so then fast forward to the corner. You gotta be willing to die in there. But yeah, he was just trying to say. I don't think Chocolatito was putting that much behind his shots where you'd have to worry about, did that affect him physically going forward? Is that when, one of those fights where you just took too many shots and you're never going to be the same? Mm-hmm. I don't think that was the case, plus his age. My worry is the demoralization, his confidence. That was a whitewashing. He really thought, because he would have taken that fight if he didn't think he could beat him. So that's a big realization where you're going into that corner and you're coming doing a ring walk. My God, you're visualizing the upset and becoming the guy who beat Chocolatito. And then after you're sitting in the freaking locker room with the towel over your head going, I just got whitewashed.
Yep.
So it's a big deal to these guys because confidence in all sports is important. In fighting, it's probably one of the most important things.
Absolutely, man, because 90% maybe of the top 10 guys in every division, they think they're the best. They think I'm the best, nobody can beat me. That's why they come up with excuses too after a fight, because they have to tell themselves that they weren't at their best. With Martinez, it will remain to be seen. Look, listen, this guy could have been in the Mexican Special Forces just by the wherewithal, by the resolve he showed alone. I mean, this guy, there's no quit in him, but there's a fine line between stupidity and bravery. And as boxing fans, it's hard to tell when a guy's being brave and when he's being stupid, and I guess time will tell with Julio Cesar Martinez. But you brought up the sparring thing. I saw this article here on Twitter from, it was actually penned by Carl Frampton, who's now retired, and he's talking about excessive sparring. As always, boxing always seems to be behind the curve compared to MMA now. They seem to have a different approach to it, and in MMA a lot now, for the past 5 years, they've been talking a lot about, well, is sparring really that good? Or excessive sparring rather. And Carl Frampton is one of the people now that's mentioning that, hey, maybe all this sparring ain't as good for the boxer's brain as they say. What do you think, Jimmy? Is there a middle ground here?
Well, there is a middle ground in a certain way too, but it's important to have good sparring partners. Remember, a sparring partner is supposed to be trying to get you ready for a fight. When you got those guys in there, some sparring partners like, go in there trying, I'm going to hurt him. I want to stop. I want to be able to, tweet out later that I stopped this dude or I put him down. Although a lot of guys do sign confidential agreements that they cannot talk or say anything about what happened. But if you got a guy, remember, if they know their job, which is to prepare you for the fight, so they shouldn't be throwing that much on it. I mean, it's a hard thing because you don't want to, if you try to take too much off your punch and then you end up slowing them down. You just don't have but you can throw without putting a wallop in behind it. Mm-hmm. So if you're sparring properly, but the thing what it becomes is you develop bad habits in sparring too sometimes if it's not being controlled properly. So you don't, some people, I think it's not even so much of physicality, it's just people spar too often to begin with. There's too many rounds. They waste too much sparring and they think that's going to keep them fresh. There's no substitute for the actual fight. The nerves, the crowds, everything is so much different. There's some guys who were great practicers. I had guys in hockey teams growing up who were just unbelievable at practice. Game time, they would just not be the same dude. They just did not do the same. They couldn't perform the same when they're counted.
I've seen guys. I've seen guys that look spectacular in the gym, and then in their amateur fights, they just completely different fighter. You know, they're aggressive, they're going to the body. Then when they fight in an amateur fight, whoop, they turn boxer. And you go, what the fuck, man? Why don't you be the aggressive guy we saw in the gym? Like you said, it's some guys, for them, it's completely different. And that's what differentiates this pound-for-pound guys from, you know, a high-level amateur or even a top 10 guy in a division. But, Jimmy, that's the other thing, because let's really tell people what we're talking about here. Some people, there's one point of view in boxing that, hey, listen, you got to spar as close to the intensity of an actual fight. Otherwise, if you don't, you're going to a fight and you're going to be shocked by the intensity. But then there's other people that say, well, listen, there comes a point where if you're experienced enough, all you got to do is really focus on your conditioning, not too much on the mental aspect. So what do you think? I mean, should they just, what can be done about this? What I'm trying to ask.
Well, okay. Here's another, again, that's a hockey analogy. That's the other sport that I played a lot of. In the hockey, in Russia growing up, when it was still the red curtain, the red under the curtain, behind the curtain, whatever, those kids didn't even touch a puck for their first 2 years. I kept reading about that growing up, and I talked to a guy from the Soko Kiev team, and he said, yeah, no, that's true. All they did was work on fundamental skating backwards, crossovers for 2 years. And by the time they were ready to stop playing with the puck, now they just, in America, they throw the kid, can you skate? You're halfway decent. So they don't start out right. So, yeah, if you got to look at things, and you got to work what's best for your fighter. But if you're fighting often enough, all fighters, I don't care who they are, 3 times minimum. If you fight less than 3 times a year, it's going to affect your abilities. They're going to go backwards. Very seldom you see somebody progress if they're fighting once or twice a year. And you can see it in the product. How many fights do we see? Top-end guys. And they're boring, fucking sloppy boo fest. The punches, half of them are missing. And it's because they don't fight enough. They're not sharp. Yeah. And you can't get sharp sparring. It just doesn't do it. What sparring does, it just keeps sparring just repetitive. It's the same thing. It just keeps it a little more exciting than doing shadow boxing, or you know what I mean?
You know what,
Hitting
Jimmy?
A heavy bag.
That's an excellent point. It's not the fights themselves that are. It's the training camp, because it's grinding, man. It's hitting the bag. Not for nothing, guys, but you hit the bag long enough. You start feeling it in your joints. Some people develop arthritis because it's just hitting that bag.
Of course.
Then there's the running, hitting the pavement. That's not good for the knees either. How many fighters, Jimmy, do you see them running on the pavement? They're not running on the treadmill.
No, and that's in a human body. Remember, we just started walking on concrete. Our human body is still not even developed for walking on cement. Our entire existence, we walked on ground, dirt. Concrete, cement blocks, these are just all new things. So the body's not, it's like drinking milk. Human bodies hasn't fully adapted to that yet, drinking cow's milk. But it's a thing about sparring, about training, what I don't like, I see too many guys, I think too many guys do the mitt dancing, the choreographed mitt dances. That's all. I'm like, yeah, it looks real good, but you notice the guy holding the mitts is doing as much as you, is moving as much as you. It's crazy. It's just they practice it, try to get it down as fast as they can, and then put it on Instagram and go, whoa, look at the hand speed. And you see the fucking overweight 52-year-old trainer sucking air because he's ready to have a heart attack from all the fucking movement he's done. So yeah, but the problem is when you punch mitts, you don't punch through the punch. You don't learn. That's why they have some, like that water bag is an unbelievable thing. You watch Canelo work on that. Whop! Because those things, they're not going to hurt your hand as much, and it helps you work on your power.
That's right.
Punching a heavy bag and punching a water bag. And I like, instead of the mitts, because you do one of the, I don't know the correct name for the actual apparatus. It's tied to the ceiling and one to the ground. That snap pad goes around.
The double end bag.
For accuracy, double end bags. The speed bags. There's all kinds of ways to work on your accuracy. And but not enough guys do heavy bag work. Too many choreographed mitt dancing videos out there for me.
You're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. I want to add something to that, but I want to say shout out to Carlos Luis for his contribution with the super chat. He says, "Them chilangos are built different. Must be the smog." Well, shout out to Carlos Luis. Every big city. I was born in Monterrey, and I could actually see the whole city because we lived on a hill. Or on a bit of a hill, and yeah, man, the smog was insane. So I don't think that's what separates the Chilangos from the rest of Mexico, because there's pollution everywhere in Mexico. It's not as clean as Canada or the United States. But shout out to Carlos, man. Maybe you're onto something. I don't know. Maybe it's like the radiation for the Russians. It makes them strong. And you know what? Official says, shout out to Officials. He says, I used to drop everything I grab after the heavy bag days, BDA. I was dropping spoons, glasses, phones as my hands were so stressed. Whoa. He must have been walloping away on that punching bag. Yeah, man. And but Jimmy, something I wanted to add about what you said about the sparring is, you do need to sparring does keep you sharp, but like you were saying too, it's about the repetition and not too much the intensity, I don't think. And too many of these guys, they look at a sparring as if it's an actual fight. Like Carl Frampton in that article said, he dropped a guy one time bad, like he dropped and he had him hurt, and his trainer started counting 1, 2. It's like, what the fuck? Stop it's sparring, man. It's not an actual fight. I mean, I know some people want to recreate the conditions of a fight, but that's insane. Like you said, sometimes you got to have the right sparring partners, but you also have to have the right trainer, right?
Right trainer, yeah. And growing up, when I was involved in the game, going down to the gym all the time, seeing somebody spar, you're like, all right, Mickey was good for that. Even when he didn't want to, his thing was hitting you in the liver. Yeah, I'm bringing him up, but he would hit you in the liver, and I would see him drop dudes all the time, hit him a liver shot. First thing he would say is, sorry, guy. He'd get right down, he's rubbing the back. He's not celebrating over him. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus, sorry about that. Or you see him touch the gloves. You see this a lot, too. Like his brother Dickie, if he hit you too hard sparring, he'd reach out and hit your glove like, geez, sorry about that. Because they know, as a fighter, you know if you just caught the dude hard. And you shouldn't be rocking him because it depends, too. A lot of guys don't use I don't like headgear. I understand people use it for the cuts, but headgear is it's false confidence because you feel that you can take a little more shots. I prefer guys to spar without the headgear. Some gyms don't allow it. Some trainers don't want the guy with headbutts and everything else. But if you got a right sparring partner, you should be getting headbutts and cuts.
But you know what else gives you false confidence? The big gloves. Because every time I watch sparring footage from professional fighters, some of them fight completely different than what we expect them to. They actually use a high guard more. But the thing is, with the big gloves, you're blocking more shots, but you're still taking a shot. Your brain is still getting rattled a little bit. So I can't help but feel if maybe that also comes into play when it comes to brain damage with some of these fighters. I mean, Terry Norris, one of the horror stories of boxing about there was that infamous Nevada State Athletic Commission hearing because he wanted to fight, I think, all the way up to 2000, and they played a tape of because he said, "No, I'm fine," and then he was learning his words bad, but he was in denial. So they played him a tape of him talking in '94, and I think he broke down crying when he heard it because he realized, shit, yeah, I'm fucked up. So man,
sad.
It's a sparring, man. Yeah. And it's also the same thing since they're not fighting now. They're only fighting twice a year, but those people that stay in the gym, they go, well, I got to stay sharp, so I got to spar. So they're sparring year-round, taking a lot of shots. But you know what I mean? So that's your point that you made, that fighting doesn't really damage you that much. It's the grind in the gym that's going to do it for you.
Yep. And the injuries.
I wanted to bring something up here in regards to we talked about that, the gloves, the Benavides. Now, you know what? We'll save the Benavides stuff for later because, again, people are going to, you always talking about Canelo Benavides and Canelo. So we'll save it for another show. We covered the Chocolatito thing. Did we miss anything? Hold on. Let me look at my notes here. We covered the Ramirez fight. We covered the undercard, a little bit of that.
90 seconds.
Oh, my goodness gracious. What the fuck? Oh, hold on a second. We got a phone call before we end here. And before the... all right. 678, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
Yeah, do y'all remember when Paulie Malignaggi was being a crybaby about Gregor talking not good in sparring?
Yeah.
Yep. And he got a two-piece. McGregor caught him with his hands down.
60 seconds.
Caller, are you still there? Oh, he hung up. The fuck?
Oh.
He was going to make a point.
I know I think I know what he's talking about. He's talking about that. There's Paulie Malignaggi with his hand down by his waist, and he's leaning back, And I remember there was that tweet that went viral. Somebody said, "Ooh, the cat-like reflexes of Paulie Malignaggi," and fucking McGregor just two pieces him, pop pop. But yeah, he went around trying to say how he dropped. I dropped him. I schooled him. I hate that shit when you see that type of shit. You know, I schooled him in sparring. It's like, man, that's why you don't hire people like that.
He got pissed off because McGregor posted a little clip of dropping Malignaggi. Malignaggi said, "Post the whole thing." But
10 seconds.
Oh my god! But he got pissed off by that, and I don't blame him. But yeah, man, this sparring thing, like, you know, we had Shaquille Finn on years ago. He was a Canadian fighter, Canadian prospect, and he said, "Look, what happens in the gym stays in the gym." And I think
exactly. I think that's poor taste with what McGregor did. He's putting out that.
Thank you for using blog.
Clipping Malignaggi. I agree 100%. I thought that was fucking low rent. But they get in. He's an MMA guy. Maybe he doesn't understand in boxing. You don't do that. It's kind of an unwritten code. What stays in sparring, what happens there, keeps it there.
Yeah, somebody was giving a theory on Discord about McGregor and how he's there's probably a criminal element that he's involved with that are making him do certain things. But again, I mean, that's a bit too far right now. Can I just say, take the opportunity to read an email here from somebody? Somebody took the time to write a very detailed email, and I felt compelled
Absolutely. Fire away.
All right. Well, this is from, shout out to Raphael von Heiderbrand. Sounds like royalty. And he said, love listening to the show from Australia. Just a couple of opinions. I didn't score a Josh Taylor fight, but I felt he got lucky. Not mad, though. Lawrence Okolie, second fight I see him in now. But there's a lot of holding. See that holding that we keep talking about, Jimmy. First was with Isaac Chamberlain. He also says Devin Haney isn't vaccinated from what I heard on the podcast by Dan Rayfield. I'm not an anti-vax person, but it's strange to see that he doesn't get any criticism after what happened here in Australia with tennis player Djokovic. I'm not sure what will happen now with Loma because of the war in Ukraine, but a few weeks ago when he was talking of fighting Kambosos, he was talking about the mainstream attention that he would get. Tim Bradley's, I saw he made a comment that because Castaño was injured, it will be a good thing for Charlo because he should be able to secure him a win. It's obvious to see who he favors. Also, I doubt the article he just wrote on why he felt Josh Taylor lost. I doubt he wrote it without getting help. Thanks, man. Well, I mean, writing ain't easy, man. But shout out to you, Rayfield, for your email. And yeah, look, writing ain't easy. You need an editor, and you need to revise. And you need to be able to cut out the fluff, the fat. Yep, that's always hard to do. Well, listen, fellas. Well, go ahead, Chief, because we're about to leave.
Well, I'm sorry I dropped back in at the end. I wasn't as free as I thought it was today, but thank you very much for having me. As always, BDA, it's always an honor, regardless of how long or how short I'm on the show. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Writing's not easy. I mean, especially writing in English with how crazy this language is. But to get your thoughts across, stick on topic, not dive down a rabbit hole and everything else, it can definitely be distracting because writing leads you down numerous paths when your mind goes. So you definitely need an editor. I've written more than one paper to where I had entire paragraphs taken out because they didn't flow. They were something that should have been in a separate paper or a separate article. So, and if you're talking about Tim Bradley as a writer, he's not a trained writer. He's a fighter.
Exactly.
So of course he needs an editor.
Yeah, it's like, when boxers tell writers, hey, don't stick to boxing. Well, writers could say the same thing to boxers. Stay in your lane. I mean, they should all be helping each other out instead of criticizing.
They should be. I'm still waiting for a writer to say that to Mayweather one day when he says, "Hey, by the way, you don't know blank about boxing." If I were a writer and he said it to me, I would say, "Oh, your uncle coined that phrase. I knew him, and he told me I did know blank about boxing. So what if you got to answer that with?" But
Chief is very confrontational. Chief is very confrontational. I can't imagine how you act over at the International Boxing Hall of Fame.
20 years of military, and my name's Boxing Chief. What do you expect?
You're absolutely right.
It says it in the title, right? No, but with writing, my girl, she was like how she's excellent at it. She writes excellent. She's everybody in her office always, hey, can you go through this? But so for one thing, I had to write this thing out once, and I said, I want you to proof it for me. That's what the bitch does before she even read it. Right? It was 2 pages. I hand it to her. She still looks at it, doesn't even look down at the paper, hands it back and says, now take out 60 words. Because I guarantee you, it's too many ands, and she made me think of it. And I went back, and then when I rewrote it, and of course, even after I wrote, I'm like, oh my God, she was so right. She was so right. I was stopping the flow of the article, and that's what you're talking about by good writers. They have flows. Their articles flow. It doesn't have like Steve Kim's articles. They're excellent. He doesn't write novels.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? He'll write 6 paragraphs, cuts to the meat of throws a couple of good fucking one-liners, and bang, you're done. You know,
And that's
writing War and
different.
Peace. Yes,
That's completely different than what A.J. Liebling did when he wrote The Sweet Science. His was the exact opposite, but he was writing a novel. So there's just different styles to writing.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And when it comes time for write and rewrite, I think I heard somewhere one time, no, I didn't read it. I was taught this in one of my classes. Shakespeare rewrote Romeo and Juliet like 7 or 8 times.
That's it.
And probably more than that. So, and then now it's one of the most classic pieces of all time. So there's no such thing as I did it once and handed it in. There's always a rewrite.
Very seldom. Yeah. Even in music, dude, you hear about people like, oh man, we recorded that song 7, 8, 9 times to get it right. Yeah, there's always tweaks. True artists, and I think real writers, like pure writers, it's an art form. And most artists are almost never happy with their end product.
That's right. Now,
they'll put in what I'm sorry, I've been talking enough. Sorry, BDA.
Don't worry about that, because now we're talking about writing. But listen, in any event, we do have to end the show. But shout out to everybody that joined. Chief, everybody that jumped on the panel. Chief, Jimmy, Gonzalo was here earlier as well. Shout out to you guys for joining us. Shout out to everybody that donated the super chat. Everybody that called in, the BDA members who are part of the BDA membership program, and everybody that was listening to us here. Shout out to you guys. Don't forget you can join us via the phone lines or on Open Lines Friday. Don't forget to hit the like button on the way out. Shout out to One Foot Out the Door, Triple JJJ, Oscar Prince Boateng, Ragnarok, Mr. Knuckles, Don Ramon Champ, Hard Recoil, Iceman, shout out to Iceman, Padja. Who else we got? Alonso, Amazing. Who else am I forgetting? Well, I mean, you guys don't know who you are. If I forgot anybody, we do have to step away. But shout out to you guys. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll be back in the middle of the week. Probably with a pound for pound show. One of those shows that people love to, we'll probably be taking calls and get people to give us their pound for pound list. Let's see if we can get to a consensus. In any event, shout out to you guys. Catch you in the next one.
I'm disappointed in everyone.